I opened my eyes and immediately regretted it because the sun was trying to murder me personally. Every inch of my skin felt like someone was poking me with 1,000 tiny burning needles. My mouth was drier than a desert sandwich. My body was screaming, water, in 17 different languages. Here's the deal. I just transmigrated into this poor bastard named Leon Edward, sixth son of Earl Edward, who got his whole family dragged into a rebellion because of his wife's crazy relatives. The rebellion flopped harder than a fish on concrete, and now everyone's strapped to crosses on a high platform, getting deep fried by the sun as punishment. They call this the sun punishment, the Cotton Empire's idea of a dignified execution for nobles. You get tied up, no food, no water, just pure sunshine torture for 7 days straight. If you survive, congratulations. The sun god has forgiven you. You get stripped of everything good and handed a garbage piece of land on the Empire's armpit border to go farming. Dignified, sure. I literally smell like a dumpster fire wrapped in a wet sock. I looked around at my fellow family members on their crosses. Every single one of them was dried out like beef jerky. You could literally take them down and sell them as museum exhibits. I'm the only one still breathing. Lucky me. I showed up right on day 7. 2 hours of roasting was all I had to handle. Thanks, transmigration timing. Finally something goes right. When the guards came to take everyone down, they nearly had a heart attack seeing me alive. What the hell, one of them's still breathing. Is he a zombie? And then, ping, a weird translucent text box popped up over the guard's head. This is an ordinary guard, but he'll soon become a dead guard because he caught an STD at Jenny's Tavern, then went to Kansas Men's Care Hospital where the doctor recommended bloodletting therapy. I blinked. Am I hallucinating from staring at the sun too long? Is my brain cooked? I looked at the second guard. Another box popped up. This is an ordinary guard. He has unusual hobbies. He's into beastier girls and is secretly saving up to buy a beastier slave. His wife absolutely cannot find out about this, or his marriage is toast. Then I looked at the cross they just untied me from. This is an ordinary cross, but years from now it will become a famous relic because it was once the execution prop for Leon Edward. Oh, so I'm going to be famous? Like, historical monument level famous? I tested it out more. Everything I focused on, people, objects, random stuff, gave me hidden information. This is my cheat ability. My transmigrator golden finger. All the doom and gloom in my heart. Gone. Evaporated faster than my family members on those crosses. Sorry, too soon. A cheater fears nothing. Not even this stinking medieval hellhole. My moment of glory got interrupted by a flying boot that was clearly aimed at my head, but hit the guard next to me instead. Whoever threw it had the accuracy of a drunk, blindfolded monkey. The guard went ballistic, waving his sword around. Who threw that? You want to die? The crowd was loving every second of this. Commoners who normally get stomped on by nobles were absolutely thrilled to see a noble looking like a sun-dried tomato. Traitor, get out of the capital. Even if the sun god forgives you, you're still rebel scum. I was honestly a little disappointed nobody threw rotten eggs or vegetables. I'm starving here, people. But then again, these folks barely have enough to feed themselves. Can't expect catering service from the poverty-stricken masses. By the time I reached the judgment hall, I could barely stand. 2 guards were basically carrying me like a weekend drunk uncle at a family reunion. The judge was some golden-haired, blue-eyed old priest. This is an ordinary priest. His only purpose is to sign your transfer papers to Red Moon territory. After that, you two will never cross paths again. Thanks for nothing, Father One-Seen Wonder. He looked genuinely annoyed that someone survived. Scribbled on some documents, handed them over, and boom, I got my sentence. Red Moon territory. Red Moon territory, also known as werewolf buffet land. A border wasteland where werewolves snack on humans like trail mix. Population never breaks 200 because wolves keep eating the census. No noble wants it. No merchant wants it. Even slightly ambitious cockroaches would turn around. Going there is basically walking into a wolf's mouth and yelling, "Dinner's here, boys." But hey, beats getting executed today, right? I can at least try to not get eaten. With my judgment papers, I officially got my noble status back. The guards escorted me to a carriage inn, and on the way, I ripped 2 green agate buttons off my shirt, the only things on me worth anything, and slipped them to a couple of homeless guys, whispering some instructions. The guards thought I was being weird, but didn't stop me. At the inn, I ran into Bess, the old butler of the Edward family. Since the servants weren't punished, our family was basically collateral damage in someone else's rebellion. Bess had been planning to take his savings and go crawling back to his ex-wife. But the moment he saw my crusty, sun-baked, absolutely disgusting face, his nose went red and he burst into tears. "Young master, you survived." Now, here's the thing about Bess's tears. They're 100% genuine. Because as long as even one Edward family member is alive, he's legally our servant forever. Those tears aren't joy. That's a man watching his retirement plan crumble in real time. Then my cheat ability kicked in. This is an ordinary butler, but he's been skimming off the top for years. Current secret stash, 2,200 gold coins. My eyes lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. I'm about to march into Werewolf Disneyland with 0 resources, 0 backup, 0 everything. And here's my butler, walking around with a fat secret piggy bank. Bess, my man. You beautiful, embezzling angel. You're exactly the pillow that arrives when you're falling asleep. A truly dedicated butler. I barely walked through the door of the carriage and before trouble came strutting in behind me like a fashion show I didn't buy tickets for. Apparently word travels fast in this city. Hey, did you hear? Some guy actually survived the sun torture. And suddenly, every bored noble brat with nothing better to do wanted to come see the freak show. First up, a golden-haired pretty boy rolling in with 4 knights flanking him like he's some kind of medieval rap star. This is Luke Weil, son of Viscount Weil. My cheat ability pinged immediately. Luke Weil, 4th son of Viscount Weil. Actually the secret love child of the Viscountess and her side piece. Currently simping hard for Tally Ram because of a certain unspeakable secret. Oh, so he's not even a real Weil. This is already getting juicy. Next to him was a chestnut-haired girl pinching her nose like I personally offended her nostrils. Which, fair. I do smell like a compost heap that went through a sauna. Ugh, the air in the capital is so polluted now. Tally Ram, youngest daughter of Baron Ram. Her father once tried to arrange a marriage between her and Leon Edward. The Edward family rejected the proposal. Reason given. Too ugly, so that's why she hates me. The old Edward family literally told her dad, "Nah, she's ugly," and sent him home. No wonder she went full supervillain. Rumor has it Baron Ram's anonymous tip is why our family got caught so fast during the rebellion. Rejected woman plus political opportunity equals absolute destruction. Classic. Oh my, isn't this Lord Leon Edward? How did you end up looking like a beggar? She cooed with the fakest sympathy I've ever heard. Who let the Edwards join a rebellion anyway? Being alive is already generous enough? I heard you're being sent to Red Moon territory. Perfect for you. It's full of savages. No. Luke, you're wrong. There aren't savages there. Just monsters. Their little entourage of knights and lackeys barked along like trained dogs. Boss says something witty, they laugh. Boss insults someone, they pile on. Real original, guys. Old Butler Bess was turning redder than a tomato. Back when the Edwards were powerful, these small fry wouldn't have dared to breathe in our direction. Now they're practically tap dancing on our grave. But Bess kept his mouth shut. No knights. No guards. Just one crusty-smelling teenage baron and one embezzling old man. Not exactly a fighting force. Then Tally dropped her big move. Poor Leon. I heard all the Edward assets were seized. You can't even afford slaves or weapons, can you? Tell you what. If you kneel down and lick my boot, maybe I'll toss you 2 gold coins. She lifted her foot to show off her fancy boot. And just to make it extra humiliating, she deliberately stepped in mud first. The crowd went wild. Lick it. Lick it. You're already a beggar. What's a little boot licking? Meanwhile, Bess was having a full internal crisis. His thought process went something like, 2 gold coins to make the young master kneel? I have over 2,000 gold coins. By that math, I could make him kneel 1,000 times. Wait. No. Bad Bess. Loyalty. Then he saw me bend over and absolutely panicked. Young master, don't. You don't need their charity. I have money. There it is. The magic words. My man just publicly confessed to having a fat wallet because he thought I was about to lick a shoe. But I wasn't bending down for anyone's boot. I was picking up my dropped agate button. These things are basically my only currency right now. I started with a handful, and I'm down to 3. Every button counts. Bess realized his mistake about half a second later. You could practically see the regret washing over his face like a slow-motion tidal wave. That was his life savings he just volunteered. Half a lifetime of skimming off the household budget, gone in one panicked outburst. Beautiful. Luke stepped up, trying to look cool. What? You won't lick. If you make Miss Tally happy, maybe I'll throw in some coins too. I smiled. Time to flip this table. You know, I figured the son of Viscount would have at least a basic education. But apparently none of you even understand how son punishment works. What do you mean? Tally's foot was still hanging in the air. She'd been holding it up so long her leg was probably cramping. When she realized I had zero intention of licking anything, she angrily kicked one of her own servants instead. The servant immediately dropped to their knees and started cleaning her boot. Imagine being that servant. Your job description literally includes emergency boot cleaning upon rage kick. I pushed my greasy hair back, gotta look dramatic for the big speech, and laid it out for them. Sun punishment means the sun god personally judges you. If you survive 7 days, it means the sun god has declared you innocent. Not only are you released, you receive a noble title. So the person standing before you isn't a penniless beggar or a filthy traitor. I am Leon Edward, Baron. I let that sink in for a second. Now you, people with no titles, just publicly humiliated a titled noble. Imperial Law, Article 124. Insulting a peer of higher rank carries a fine of 1,000 gold coins or 5 to 10 years in prison. There are 7 of you. That's 7,000 gold coins. Or would you prefer the prison option, the look on their faces? Priceless. And I mean that literally. It was worth exactly 7,000 gold coins. See, this whole thing was a setup. Those 2 agate buttons I gave to the homeless guys earlier? I told them to go gossip about poor, pitiful Leon Edward right outside the Ram family's door. I knew Tally couldn't resist coming to gloat. That woman's grudge-holding game is Olympic level. What I didn't expect was the bonus package. Tally brought Luke the simp and 5 lackeys. Buy 1, get 6 free. Those 2 agate buttons were the best investment I ever made. Luke and Tally kept their composure, but their knights and servants were falling apart. 1,000 gold coins each? That's not pocket change for hired muscle. Luke, sir, Tally, miss. If he's really a baron, maybe we should just leave. Him? A baron? Please. A traitor can't have a title. That's ridiculous. Luke was still trying to flex in front of Tally. Buddy, she's not going to date you. You're not even a real while. Fine. No more talking. I sent Bess to catch the guards who'd escorted me here. They hadn't gone far. The guard came back, stood at attention, and said with full military respect, Baron, sir. What are your orders? Every jaw in the room hit the floor simultaneously. 1 second, I'm a condemned criminal. Next second, I'm a baron getting saluted by Imperial guards. Character arc speedrun, baby. And here's the kicker. As the 6th son, I was never going to inherit the Edward earldom anyway. But now I have my own title, earned directly from surviving divine judgment. This isn't hand-me-down nobility. This is God-certified. I came out of this whole family catastrophe with a promotion. Tally swallowed her pride and turned to leave. Luke followed like the obedient puppy he is. I watched their retreating backs and smiled. Hold on. Where do you think you're going? Did I say you could leave? The crowd scattered like cockroaches when the lights turn on. Turns out nobody wants to stick around when there's a 1,000 gold coin fine floating in the air. Sell these people whole, and they still couldn't cover that bill. The guards were giving me complicated looks. I could read their faces like a book. We don't want to mess with the new baron, but we really don't want to mess with the families that are staying in the capital. Smart guys. Cowardly, but smart. Good thing Tally and Luke were too rattled to notice. Their brains were still buffering from the legal smackdown I just delivered, so I kept pushing. Pay the fine, or come with me to the judgment hall. And we all know that nobles with court records get treated like trash forever. You really want to ruin your whole future over this? Your choice, you. Why didn't the sun god just take you? Tally stomped her foot and hurled a bag of coins at me like it personally offended her. I nodded at Bess to pick it up. He counted carefully. Baron, sir. There's only 500 here. Tally's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. Her chest was heaving so hard I thought her dress was about to stage its own rebellion. She shot laser eyes at Luke. The universal girlfriend signal for, pay up, simp, and Luke, bless his desperate heart, couldn't miss the chance to play hero in front of his crush. He ordered his servants to drag a whole chest of gold coins off his carriage. Here's the best part. That money was originally Luke's bribe fund to sneak his way into the Sun God Church. He'd been saving it to buy his way into clergy school, and now it's all going into my pocket instead. Sorry, buddy. God works in mysterious ways. Bess cracked open the chest, and his eyes went full cartoon, practically turned into gold coins themselves. The man spent decades quietly embezzling, and I just out-earned his entire criminal career with one conversation. I could see the exact moment his brain recalculated his life choices. Maybe following this kid isn't so bad after all. Even to werewolf territory. Baron, sir, Bess announced, there's 500 extra. Give it back. We don't take more than what's owed. Bess gently placed Tally's original bag back on the ground. On the ground, right where she'd thrown it. The Baron says we cannot accept other people's extra money. Beautiful. She threw it on the ground to humiliate me, and now I'm returning it on the ground to humiliate her. Picking that bag up would be admitting she got played. Leaving it means she loses 500 gold. Tally chose her pride. She stormed off without looking back. Her servants scrambled after her like ducklings chasing a very angry mama duck. Luke, on the other hand, had zero pride left. He snatched that bag off the ground faster than a seagull stealing a French fry, glared at me, and spat. Get lost to Red Moon territory? You jerk. Safe travels. Don't be a stranger. I waved goodbye like I was seeing off a dear friend at the airport. After they all left, I patted the chest of gold and looked at Bess. Know what this is called? Bess tilted his head. Money? This is called an idiot tax. Bess nodded with deep respect despite clearly having no idea what that meant. In this era, the concept of IQ doesn't exist yet, let alone taxing people for not having one. After the show was over, I finally got to take care of basic human needs. Hot bath, clean clothes, a proper meal. You know, the stuff I haven't had in 7 days because I was busy being a human sundial. Freshly scrubbed and no longer smelling like a crime scene, I sat down with Bess for a financial review. Bess, how much money do we have? Baron, sir, all Edward family assets were seized. Including the 7,000 gold from today's collection, we currently have 6,998 gold coins. 2 were spent on your room, new clothes, and dinner, right? But that shouldn't be all we have. Didn't you say earlier that you have money? Bess looked like he wanted to slap himself into next week. Why did I open my big mouth? I do have some small savings. About 500 gold coins. 500. Out of 2,200. My man just voluntarily donated about a quarter of his secret stash and tried to pass it off as everything. Respect the hustle, honestly. I let it slide. 25% surrender rate is actually pretty loyal for a guy who was planning to run back to his ex-wife 12 hours ago. Come on, we're going shopping. Slaves and weapons. Now? Don't you want to rest first? The kingdom usually gives nobles 7 days to prepare. If I don't spend this money fast, I won't be alive to spend it later. Those 2 are probably already hiring assassins as we speak. Assassins? But you're a noble. Killing a noble is a crime equal to nothing if nobody can investigate it. The Edward family is extinct, Bess. I'm a weed growing in a crack with no roots, no allies, no protection. Anyone could off me and blame it on a mugging. Let's go. Bess turned pale. He wasn't just worried about me. He realized if I die, he's probably getting buried in the same ditch. Nothing motivates a butler quite like self-preservation. Within minutes, he'd hired a carriage and we were racing toward the nearest slave market. Time to go shopping for an army. We hopped into a carriage and my cheat ability immediately hit me with some gossip I didn't ask for. This is an ordinary carriage, but 2 days ago, Priest Y'all and Mrs. Branny had a date in here. I quietly filed away Priest Y'all's name. You never know when a cheating clergy scandal might come in handy. 2 neighborhoods later, we arrived at the Dusk Market, the capital's biggest slave market. These guys only open at sunset and work till 2 a.m., which honestly sounds like the worst shift schedule in history. The narrow streets were packed with shops, and every shop had slaves on display with wooden price tags hanging from their necks like human Christmas ornaments. Most of them were crammed into cages, dozens per cage, in conditions that would make a sardine can look like a luxury apartment. The slave selection was like a fantasy RPG character menu. Goblins, dwarves, beast folk, subhumans, and even some pathetic little skeleton monsters. Humans were actually rare. Then there were the premium slaves. Pretty elf girls and cute beast-ear maids locked in private cages, dolled up and priced like sports cars. My cheatability had a field day. This is a beautiful elf. She's been resold 5 times. The merchant calls her brand new. This is a cute beast-ear girl. She's already given birth to 3 wolf pups. The merchant calls her brand new. This is a cross-dressing subhuman male. He's been resold. Yeah, the premium section was basically a used car lot where every vehicle has a rollback odometer. Hard pass on all of these. I wasn't here to buy decorations. I needed actual useful people. So I kept walking, shop after shop, scanning everything with my golden finger, getting nothing but useless information for 7 or 8 stores straight. Then, ping. This soft, bullied little girl will one day become the chief witch. My eyes nearly popped out of my skull. Chief witch? Let me explain how insane that is. In this world, the moon goddess gives witches their power. Once awakened, a witch can control natural magic. We're talking unlimited mana pulled straight from the environment. Walking natural disasters. The empire has existed for 300 years and only produced 52 witches total, and every single one came from top-tier noble families. Regular mages? They squeeze out magic from their own bodies using runes and rituals like wringing water from a towel. Witches just open the tap and let the ocean flow through. And here, in this grimy little slave shop, sitting in a cage, was the seed of the future chief witch. She was a tiny white-haired girl in a black gothic dress, curled up in a ball with her face buried in her knees, trying her absolute best to be invisible. Her cheeks were covered in dirt, on purpose. The slave merchant had washed her face multiple times, but she kept dirtying it back up every single time. Even whipping didn't stop her. Girl had more stubbornness per pound of body weight than anyone I'd ever seen. The merchant spotted me staring and immediately went into salesman mode. He reached into the cage and yanked up her chin. Excellent taste, sir. Brand new stock. See those red eyes? She's northern nobility. Just feed her a few years and she'll make a perfect little. He raised his whip to hit her for having a dirty face again. I grabbed the whip mid-swing. If you break her, are you going to sell yourself to me as replacement? The merchant's sales smile cracked. Sorry, sir. If you're serious about her, just 500 gold coins. 500. He jacked the price up because he saw me intervene. Rookie mistake, pal. You just showed me you're desperate to sell. But honestly, for a future chief witch, 500 is pennies. The thing is, this scammer doesn't know she's a witch seed. Time to do what I do best. I would have happily paid 500, I said calmly. But you just whipped a noble. You know what imperial law says about that, right? The merchant blinked. Wait, what? You grabbed him, why whip? I wasn't trying to hit you. Even accidentally striking a noble is a punishable offense. Bess jumped in immediately. The man has developed a Pavlovian response to the words, imperial law. His eyes light up, and he starts drooling like one of those dogs that hears a bell. That's right. You struck our baron. You violated imperial law. Bess was hugging the gold chest tighter than ever. I could practically hear his thoughts. More money. More money. Give me more boxes to carry. I don't care if my spine breaks. Fill me with gold. The merchant's legs gave out the second he heard, Baron. He hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. Nobody in this era fakes noble titles. Impersonating a noble gets your head chopped off. So if someone says they're a baron, you believe them. Baron, sir. Please forgive me. I didn't know. So about this slave. Take her. She's free. Consider it my apology. Now here's where I played it perfectly. Free? Absolutely not. A noble coming to the slave market and not paying? That's beneath my dignity. Name your price. The merchant looked like his brain was short-circuiting. He wants to pay? You? You really insist on paying? I insist. Then. 500 GOL. He caught himself. The fear of the law was still fresh. 0.1 gold coin. Deal. I had Bess hand over 1 single gold coin. The white-haired girl's jaw dropped to the floor. 1 gold coin. Back when she was a noble, 1 gold coin couldn't even buy her a doll. The merchant pulled out the slave contract. This is a blood contract. If she betrays you or tries to harm you, she'll suffer heart-eating pain until death. I signed it. Felt the magic bond snap into place. Waved goodbye to the very confused merchant. Walking away, Bess couldn't hold it in anymore. Baron, sir, why did you buy this little brat? She has 0 combat ability. She's completely useless for pioneering dangerous territory. I rubbed the little white-haired head. She's a growth stock, Bess. Raise her right. And forget about pioneering land. We could pioneer a whole nation. What? A nation? Bess nearly swallowed his own tongue. The Edward family just got executed for rebellion-adjacent activities, and here I am casually talking about founding a country. Baron, sir, please, we must look forward, not backward. We cannot live in hatred. We must plan for the future. I ignored his panicking and patted the little girl's round head again. So, what's your name? The white-haired lowly turned her face away and gave me the silent treatment. Full Sundara mode activated. But her stomach had other plans. It growled so loud I thought a small bear was trapped inside her dress. I sent Bess to grab some food. He came back with dry bread and cheap grilled sausages, the kind of meal that would make a prison cafeteria look like a five-star restaurant. Little Miss Pride stared at the food. Her eyes said, absolutely not. Her mouth was producing enough drool to fill a swimming pool. She was fighting the greatest internal battle of her young life. I will not give in. I am a proud noble. I refuse to. She snatched the bread and sausage and inhaled them like a vacuum cleaner on turbo mode. In her head, she decided this was definitely the blood contract forcing her to eat. Not her choice at all. The contract made her do it. 100%. Case closed. Sure, kid. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Slow down, you'll choke. Here, drink some water. She grabbed the water bottle and chugged it without looking at me. Then, in the tiniest voice ever recorded in human history, she mumbled, even though you gave me food, I'm definitely not going to tell you my name is Aurora. She only gave her first name. No last name. Smart kid. Her family name is apparently banned up north, and she wasn't about to let me cash in a bounty on her. She thinks she's being clever. She is being clever. For a tiny dirt-faced gremlin, anyway. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Beautiful Aurora. I couldn't help humming. She stared at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. What is this lunatic singing? And who's he calling beautiful? I literally have mud caked on my face like war paint. After that heartwarming bonding moment, we continued shopping through the dusk market. I noticed something annoying. Using my cheat ability nonstop was draining my stamina. My stomach started growling almost as loud as Aurora's had. I grabbed a piece of dry bread and started chewing while walking. Bess nearly cried watching me eat slave-grade bread. The old Leon Edward was a pampered rich boy who probably never even saw bread this cheap. Now his young master was munching on it like a college student eating ramen on day 29 of the month. 2 hours of browsing. 31 gold coins spent. I bought some hoes for farming, a few swords, and some armor. But actual useful people? 0. My cheat ability kept scanning every slave we passed and coming back with nothing but boring stats. Bess was losing patience. Baron, sir, what kind of slave are you looking for? Those beastmen back there looked pretty strong. If I can't find anything better, sure, we'll grab some beastmen. Honestly, those beastmen couldn't even beat a trainee knight. No wonder they got caught and enslaved. Pass. Then I stopped in front of a cage holding 20 little skeleton monsters. Ping. This fragile skeleton that shatters at a touch will one day become the undead emperor. Excuse me, what? The undead emperor? Sitting in a bargain bin cage? In a slave market? The fat shop owner waddled over immediately when he saw me staring. Great eye, customer. I'm the only undead specialist in the whole market. All my skeletons are fully trained, completely safe. Want a bodyguard? Try a skeleton knight. Want a pet? These little skulls are adorable, round, white, cute. They've got everything except meat. I glanced at the merchant. My ability told me he had a thing for corpses. Well, that explains the career choice. I pointed at the most pathetic, weakest little skeleton in the cage. The one that looked like it would collapse if someone sneezed nearby. How much for this one? 50 copper coins. The merchant was visibly disappointed. 50 coppers is basically spare change. 1 gold coin equals 1,000 copper coins. This skeleton was being priced lower than a sandwich. Normally, skeletons this week are thrown in as freebies. Bess paid without blinking. To him, this was pocket lint money. Just the boss buying a weird toy. I signed the contract and we left. Bess looked at our army. 1 tiny dirt-faced girl. 1 skeleton that could break if you looked at it too hard. 1 old embezzling butler. And me, a sun-dried baron who looked like a scarecrow in nice clothes. Baron, sir, you're planning to pioneer Red Moon territory with a child and a skeleton. His voice cracked on every word. The man was having a slow-motion mental breakdown. What he didn't know was that my useless child was a future chief which capable of leveling cities, and my garbage skeleton was a future undead emperor who could command armies of the dead. But sure, Bess, keep panicking. In my head, the plan was simple. Future undead emperor can't farm? Teach him. Future chief, which can't fight werewolves? Train her. And while she's at it, she can tame the wolf pups into guard dogs. Efficiency. No more good picks at the slave market. Let's hire some mercenaries to escort us to Red Moon territory. We walked into the Wilmore Mercenary Company just as an angry customer stormed out screaming about their prices. 500 gold for one escort? Why don't you just rob people? At the front desk sat a blonde woman whose outfit left approximately nothing to the imagination. Her proportions were so aggressive they belonged in a video game I played in my past life. Welcome. What do you need? She smiled professionally. Bess stepped up. Handling logistics was his job as my one and only servant, and explained we needed an escort to Red Moon territory. We offer 3 tiers. Super Squad, led by a powerful 3-star knight captain, 5 elite 2-star knights, can handle any mission. 500 gold per trip. Elite Squad, led by a 2-star knight captain, 10 1-star knights, handles most dangerous missions. 300 gold. Basic Squad, led by a 1-star knight captain, 20 trainees and tough guys, handles easy missions. 10 gold. She kept glancing at me while explaining. I could read her mind. This skinny, sunburned dude with a muddy child and a skeleton. Can he actually afford this? She started pushing the budget options hard. Bess's eyes lit up at the basic squad price. 10 gold each. He could hire 10 basic squads, 200 people, for just 100 gold coins. What a deal. I could see the gears turning in his penny-pinching brain. 200 people. That'll scare away every bandit on the road. And it only costs. I want 4 super squads. Bess's soul left his body. Are you sure you don't mean 4 basic squads? Or 4 elite squads? You want 4 super squads. The blonde receptionist thought her ears were broken. Lady, my ears work fine, and so does my survival instinct. I'm about to walk into werewolf country with a bounty on my head. This is not the time to coupon clip. Yes, I'm sure. Bess looked like someone was physically pulling gold coins out of his chest cavity. Each one hurt. The blonde's eyes sparkled like she just won the lottery, which she basically did. She slid out from behind the desk and pressed herself against my arm, her northern hemisphere making direct contact with my elbow as she escorted me to the VIP room for contract signing. Bess squinted suspiciously. Aurora tilted her head, watching me walk away, unsure if she was supposed to follow her new owner into whatever was happening behind that door. Relax, everyone. The VIP room was completely professional. No special services, just aggressive upselling. This woman could sell sand to a desert. By the time I walked out, I had purchased, for Super Squad escorts for 2,000 gold, 1 awakening stone for 2,000 gold, 10 healing potions for 100 gold. Grand total, for 1,100 gold coins. Her 1% commission came out to 41 gold coins, and suddenly I went from scrawny sunburned stranger to extremely handsome gentleman in her eyes. Funny how money works. She would have asked me on a date too, except she correctly calculated that anyone hiring 4 elite kill squads for self-defense probably has a very short life expectancy. Smart and greedy. My kind of woman. When I walked out of the VIP room, my face had several lipstick prints on it. Complimentary gifts from the saleswoman. Aurora narrowed her eyes. Her tiny nose twitched. She'd picked up the perfume scent immediately. Little bloodhound. Bess stared at me with pure envy. The man's got 1 foot in the grave and the other foot wishing it was in my shoes. It's not what you think. Those were thank you kisses. For the business. Purely transactional. Neither of them believed me. Not even a little bit. I wiped the lipstick off, grabbed the contract, and left. The mercenary knights would arrive at my inn by nightfall to start their protection detail. Next, I sent Bess on a shopping marathon. 1 month's food for 30 people, a large 4-wheeled carriage, horses, blankets, spare clothes, 300 gold coins gone. The carriage alone ate over 100 gold because apparently anything that seats more than 4 people in this world costs as much as a used BMW. Current balance, roughly 3,067 gold coins. That evening, the 4 super squads reported for duty. The 4 captains were Big Beard Kundi, Red-Nosed Deer, Big Ears Sis, and Scarface Mondo. Together with their elite knights, 20 hardened warriors total. Now, the awakening stone was obviously for Aurora, but I couldn't use it on her yet. The kid was basically a skeleton with skin. Here's something this world doesn't advertise. The reason only noble ladies become witches isn't because of bloodline or destiny. It's because they're well fed. Magic requires a body that's properly nourished. No nutrients, no magic. The moon goddess isn't giving superpowers to starving children. Translation: I need to fatten up this little gremlin before I can unlock her world-destroying potential. I also needed to spend my remaining 3,000 gold on a magic tool from the Mage Guild. Preferably something that could strengthen my pathetic body. Because right now, forget pioneering dangerous territory, I didn't even have enough stamina to survive a dinner date with the sales lady. That night proved I was absolutely right to splurge on security. I got assassinated 3 times. In one night. Wave 1 came from our friend Luke Weil. The cheapskate hired only 3 1-star knight assassins. 3. To kill a baron who just spent 2,000 gold on bodyguards. These guys got taken down so fast the mercenaries barely warmed up. And because Luke hired discount killers, they had 0 loyalty. The second they got caught, they sang like canaries. Spilled everything. Names, dates, how much Luke paid them, probably his shoe size too. Wave 2 was from Tallyram. Now SHE at least showed some respect. She sent the Ram family's personal knight squad, 1 3-star knight leading 5 2-star knights. Proper assassination attempt. Solid effort. 8 out of 10 for commitment. Unfortunately, they ran face first into 20 elite mercenaries and lost badly. Unlike Luke's bargain bin hitmen, these guys refused to talk. Noble knights, noble silence. Didn't matter though, my cheat ability told me everything I needed to know. Wave 3 was concerning. A team of masked 3-star knights showed up, failed to kill me, but managed to escape without leaving any clues. Professional. Clean. Scary. I had no idea who sent them. The Edward family must have stepped on some very big toes that I didn't know about. Someone powerful wanted me dead, and it wasn't just a petty viscount's son and a rejected bride. Time to get out of this city fast. Next morning, Big Beard Kindy lined up all the captured assassins in the inn's backyard. They were tied up and kneeling in a nice neat row, like the world's worst chorus line. Kindy didn't tell me who sent them. Smart man. Mercenaries are workers, not politicians. They do their job and stay out of noble drama. I respected that. Baron Sir, last night's assassins are all here. A few escaped, but they're wounded. Shouldn't be a problem short-term. Big Ears Sis grinned. And if they come back, we'll beat them so hard they'll wish they were never born. Would you like to interrogate them yourself to find out who hired them? I looked at the row of tied-up killers. No need. Kill them all. All 4 mercenary captains froze. They stared at me like I'd just casually ordered a sandwich instead of a mass execution. They knew some of these assassins worked for the Weil family. Killing people connected to nobility is complicated business. Messy paperwork. Potential revenge. Political headaches. But Big Beard Kindy, he was secretly thrilled. He'd been thinking the same thing. These assassins had already failed their mission, and keeping them alive would only create problems for everyone. Dead men tell no tales, and more importantly, dead men don't file complaints. He raised his blade. The assassins panicked. Wait, do you even know who we are? You can't just kill us. The assassins thought their little speech worked because Big Beard Kindy put his sword away and stepped back. Immediately, they puffed up like pigeons and started running their mouths. You better let us go. Our boss is a big deal in this capital. You can't afford to make him angry. Yeah, release us now or you'll be begging on your knees for forgiveness. Actually, begging won't even help. You'll be hunted forever. Funny how 5 minutes ago these guys were trying to kill me in my sleep, and now they're acting like I'm the bully. Old Bess shuffled over and whispered in my ear, trembling like a chihuahua in a thunderstorm. Baron Sir, maybe we should just let them go? We have the knights for protection, and we really shouldn't make more enemies before we leave. He'd apparently slept like a baby last night, hugging that chest of gold coins like a teddy bear, and woke up to discover our backyard had turned into an assassin collection. Poor guy nearly had a stroke, but I wasn't letting anyone walk away from this. Imperial Law, Article 156. Assassinating a newly appointed noble carries enhanced punishment. If the attacker is a fellow noble, fines or demotion. If they're a commoner, death penalty. So which big deal boss of yours wants to personally visit the judgment hall over a bunch of failed hitmen? Bess coughed importantly and added, That's right. You attacked Baron Edward, Lord of Red Moon Territory. Unforgivable. The assassins looked at each other. Reality was settling in like a cold shower. They knew I was right. The moment they failed the mission, their bosses were going to pretend they didn't exist. They tried to bluff me with the powerful master card, and I'd slapped it right out of their hands. 5 minutes of legal threats later, these same tough guys were literally begging. Please, Baron Sir. We were just following orders. And actually, we weren't even here to kill you. Oh? Creative. Let's hear this. Then who were you here to kill? The assassin's eyes darted around desperately and landed on Bess. Him. We were here to kill the old guy. Yeah, the old man. Totally the target. Bess nearly peed himself on the spot. His fingers shook like a broken compass as he pointed at the kneeling assassins. Me? Why? I've never done anything to any of you. Doesn't matter. You offended people you shouldn't have. This is all a misunderstanding, Baron Sir. I rubbed my chin and looked at my terrified butler. Well, Bess, what do you think I should do? I don't know, sir. I'm trying to figure out who I even offended. The man was genuinely confused, bless his embezzling heart. I turned to Kendi. Captain, your opinion? Kendi crossed his arms. Our job is to protect you. Everything else is none of our business. Classic mercenary energy. I get paid to fight, not to think. Kill them all. Nobody touches my people either. Bess burst into tears. This old servant swears eternal loyalty to the Baron. See that? All it takes is one death sentence to turn a penny-pinching embezzler into a ride-or-die loyalist. You can't kill us. We belong to Baron Ram. We're Viscount Wile's men, and just like that, the assassins accidentally revealed they came from 2 different nobles. They didn't even know each other were from different bosses until this exact moment. Beautiful teamwork, guys. Really professional operation. I looked at Kendi. Kendi and all his mercenaries turned around in perfect unison, covered their ears, and announced, We didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything. The most synchronized display of, not my problem, I've ever witnessed. These guys practiced this move. There's no way they haven't. Fine. If the professionals won't do it, I've got my own guy. I pushed my tiny skeleton forward. Bing, it's your time to shine. Bing, that's the name I gave my little skeleton after buying him. He was barely taller than Aurora, walked with a limp from years of abuse by slave traders, and looked like he'd lose a fight with a stiff breeze. He pulled out his dull knife and shuffled toward the assassins with all the menace of a baby duck approaching a breadcrumb. Bing, kill this one first. I pointed at the loudest assassin. Lesson of the day, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. Bing waddled over with his rusty blade. The assassin glared at him. Bing immediately dropped to the ground, curled into a ball, and started shaking. Huh, this little TOY is trying to kill people. The assassins were laughing. Honestly, I couldn't blame them. I patted Bing's skull. Come on, man. You're going to be an emperor someday. Stand up. Stab him. Imagine he killed your father. Bing looked up at me blankly. Right. He's a skeleton. He doesn't have a father. He doesn't have parents. He was literally born from nothing. Quick pivot. Bing, you want some bones to eat? The empty eye socket suddenly flickered with soul fire. Bones. Bones. He loved bones. The only bones he'd ever gotten to chew on were his own. Kill him, and you get his bones. Bing grabbed that dull knife and stabbed with zero hesitation. Right into the assassin's butt. The scream that came out of that man could shatter glass in neighboring kingdoms. Here's the thing about dull knives. They're worse than sharp ones. Everyone knows a dull blade hurts 10 times more. And the location? Let's just say Bing's aim needed work. I glanced at Aurora, who had her tiny hands clamped over her eyes. For the record, I did not tell him to stab there. She ran inside the building. Apparently, future chief witches have a low tolerance for rear-end stabbing. I let Bing keep going. Stab after stab. The dull knife made everything agonizingly slow. 30 stabs later, the assassin finally went down. The screaming had echoed through the entire carriage inn. Every guest in the building now understood very clearly. The skinny, sunburnt baron who looked like he couldn't open a jar? Yeah, he's absolutely terrifying. But the real prize wasn't the intimidation factor. See, skeleton monsters level up by killing. Every kill lets them absorb a sliver of the victim's soul power. The stronger the target, the bigger the sliver. and a skeleton with the potential of a future undead emperor? I was guessing A Bing could absorb at least 1% of the soul per kill. That first assassin was a 2-star knight, which meant A Bing just got his first real meal and his very first evolution. My little trembling coward was growing up, one butt stab at a time. A Bing went from a pathetic little runt to a full 6-foot skeleton in one killing spree. The guy was so excited about being tall that he started dancing. And not just any dance. He started doing the butt wiggle dance that the necrophiliac slave merchant had taught him. Give this skeleton a steel pole, and he'd have a career in the entertainment industry. I couldn't watch. I physically could not watch. My cheat ability popped up his new stats. Skeleton A Bing has evolved from low-level skeleton servant to mid-level skeleton servant. Skills: basic bone claw attack, basic dull knife attack, advanced butt wiggle dance, please master, weak soul fire, barely alive. His most advanced skill is a sexy dance. I'm so proud. Okay, I get it, you're happy. Moving on, A Bing grabbed his dull knife and went for assassin number 2. The remaining assassins were shaking, crying, begging, the whole drama package. Some of them even tried to bite their own tongues to commit suicide, which I saw coming a mile away. I had best stuffed towels in every single mouth. No dying on your own terms, gentlemen. Your bones belong to A Bing now. By assassin number 3, the dull knife finally evolved too. Turned into a brand new steel blade. About time. At least the remaining kills were faster and less. But related. After clearing the entire lineup, A Bing hit evolution number 3. His limp? Healed. His bones went from dirty gray to polished ivory. His soul fire burned brighter. He jumped onto the inn's roof in one leap and started swinging his new steel sword around like he was auditioning for a kung fu movie. Skeleton A Bing upgraded to Super Skeleton Servant. Skills: advanced bone claw attack, advanced butt wiggle dance, please master, weak soul fire. Next evolution: consume 10 same species soul fires to become skeleton warrior. The butt dance survived 2 evolutions. This skill is apparently core to his being. It's not going anywhere. I had A Bing spar with Big Beard Kendi to test his strength. Kendi destroyed him. Wasn't even close. A Bing's current fighting level was basically trainee knight, slightly better than a normal person. Good enough to mug grandmas. Absolutely useless on a real battlefield. Worse, he had a psychological complex. Years of being abused by humans meant that any time someone even looked at him aggressively, he'd curl up into a ball and surrender. This skeleton needed therapy. Or more bones. Probably both. I rewarded him with a big pot of pork bones, which he attacked with more enthusiasm than he'd shown killing actual people. And then we headed to the Mage Guild. The receptionist was an elf slave. Gorgeous. Dressed in an outfit that left very little to the imagination. Apparently, all mages like to keep pretty elf servants around, and since the guild was founded by a grand mage, there were elf slaves everywhere. It was like walking into a fantasy cosplay convention. Welcome, honored guest. What kind of magic tool are you looking for? Something that improves my body. Defense boost would be nice. Attack boost even better. I know exactly what you need. Follow me. She led me into the inner gallery where the real magic tools were stored, not the display models. Option 1. Beastman Armor. A gorgeous lion-crested suit of golden armor. Boosts defense, attack, and gradually improves your body. The catch? You slowly turn into a beastman. Your face gets rugged. How much? 5,000 gold. I don't even have 5,000 gold. Sorry, beautiful armor. Goodbye forever. Option 2. Demon Collar. Cheaper at 2,500 gold. Same defense and attack boost. Makes you as strong as a 1-star knight while wearing it. The catch? It gives you unique preferences. What kind of preferences? Try it on. She put the collar on me, and instantly I felt incredible power surge through my body. My muscles felt alive. My mind was sharp. I was invincible. I also suddenly wanted to kneel in front of the elf lady and lick her feet while she whipped me. I ripped that collar off so fast I nearly broke it. Nope. Power is nice, but I'd like to keep my dignity. Thank you. Option 3. The elf rummaged through a dusty shelf and pulled out a black wooden box. Inside was a candle stub. This is the acceleration candle. When lit, it speeds up time within a 1-meter radius. Combined with this knight training manual, you could reach 1-star knight level in 3 months instead of 3 years. If you're talented, even faster. How much acceleration exactly? And will I age faster? We don't know the exact speed. Candles are consumable, so we can't test them like other tools. This one's only 1/5 remaining, so it's just 3,500 gold. As for aging, only light it during training. Knights age slower anyway. Then my cheat ability dropped a bombshell. This looks like an ordinary magic candle, but it actually belonged to legendary knight Roland. Train with it lit, and you have a chance of receiving Roland's personal guidance. Roland, one of the Empire's 24 genius knights. The man who challenged the Empire's flame, which 33 times, and won when nobody believed he could. Earned the title of strongest knight, then vanished at age 45 and was never seen again. And this elf was selling his candle for 3,500 gold because she had no idea what it really was. 3 options: turn into a furry, become a masochist, or get trained by a legend. Gee, let me think about that one real hard. I haggled the elf down to 3,000 gold for the candle. She threw in 2 night training books and a lucky pocket watch as freebies. The watch had 0 magical power. It was basically a participation trophy the Mage Guild hands out to everyone who spends money there. Like getting a free keychain after buying a car. With everything packed, we finally hit the road to Red Moon territory. On the carriage ride, Aurora was clearly confused. She'd been bracing herself for the standard slave experience. Beatings, starvation, the whole miserable package. Instead, I was feeding her steak and fish every single day. Her brain couldn't process this error in her worldview. Abing was living his best afterlife too. Daily bone supply. He'd completely forgotten he was supposed to be a miserable skeleton monster. Bess, meanwhile, was watching our money evaporate like water on a hot pan. Baron sir, the Edward family doesn't exist anymore. He'd remind me every time he had to pay for something, which was constantly. Bess, the Edward family is gone, but we're still here. You know what the cruelest thing in the world is? What? Dying with money still in the bank. Bess disagreed strongly. In his professional financial opinion, being alive with no money was far worse. The gold chest he'd been proudly carrying days ago had shrunk into a sad little coin pouch. He clutched it like a mother holding a premature baby. But what really drove Bess crazy was the nightly ritual. Every evening, I'd kick him out of the carriage and stay inside alone with Aurora and Abing. I'd light the acceleration candle, and for the next 30 minutes to an hour, the carriage would shake violently. Every single night. The mercenary knights were whispering among themselves. I could practically read their thought bubbles. The Baron, with the little girl, and the skeleton. Every night. The carriage shaking. No. Stop. I was training. The candle speeds up time 5-fold inside its 1-meter radius, so 1 hour of practice equals 5 hours of real training. Roland's legendary ghost was literally coaching me through combat drills. The carriage shook because I was doing exercises in an enclosed space. Poor Bess tried to defend my honor. The young master is a bookworm. He would never, but even he couldn't explain the shaking. Bess started taking out his frustration on my 2 investments. 2 slaves, 2 bottomless pits. He grumbled, glaring at Aurora and Abing. Aurora's still growing. Fine, she can eat more. But you, he pointed at Abing. You're a skeleton. Why do you need this many bones every day? Abing shrank his neck and hid his burlap sack behind his back. The bag was stuffed with chewed bones he'd been hoarding. Nobody knew why he was saving them. Skeleton reasons, I guess. Aurora blushed and refused to admit she'd been eating like a trucker at an all-you-can-eat buffet. But the evidence was all over her face, literally. Her cheeks were filling out, her skin was glowing, and she was starting to look like the fallen aristocrat she actually was. As for me, 1 week of candle-boosted training had given me results that normally take months. Roland's ghost wasn't just helpful, he was a genius coach. The difference between being self-taught and having a legendary mentor is like the difference between Googling how to swim and having Michael Phelps personally throw you in the pool. Only problem, the candle was burning down way too fast. I wasn't sure it would even last until we reached Red Moon territory. The trip required 6 days by land. We'd taken a shortcut through Haas Mountain, which borders the Undead Mountain range on its eastern side. Human Knight orders had cleared this area multiple times, and I had 20 elite mercenaries. So theoretically, should be fine. Theoretically, I pulled back the carriage curtain and looked up at Haas Mountain. Dark clouds. Eerie fog wrapping around jagged rocks like gray silk scarves. Young master, it's going to rain, Bess said, his silver temples trembling in the wind. First raindrop hit my palm. Ice cold. I was about to order the convoy to speed up when a wave of wrong hit every instinct in my body. Hundreds of crows exploded out of the forest, screaming, a black flood of feathers rolling across the sky. Something's off. Kundi's voice went steel-tight. Those crows have blood-red eyes. The ground started trembling. Kundi's horse panicked. He drew his sword. Formation. The knights surrounded the carriage in a defensive ring. Then the earth cracked open and pale bone hands started punching through the dirt. Okay, I've played video games. I've seen skeleton ambushes 1,000 times on a screen. But when actual skeletons start clawing out of the ground 3 feet from your face, with green flames dancing in their empty eye sockets and rusted armor still bearing the crests of ancient knight orders, your scalp goes numb and your brain starts screaming. This isn't a cut scene. You can't pause. Ancient Knight Order undead, someone shouted. The first skeleton knight launched itself 3 meters into the air and brought a rotting greatsword down on Kundi's head. He blocked it, but the impact numbed his entire arm. These weren't trash mob skeletons. These were elite undead. Protect. Protect the Baron, Bess stammered, having absolutely zero useful skills to contribute to this situation. Decades of comfortable mansion life hadn't exactly prepared him for a zombie apocalypse. The knights raised shields. More skeletons poured in from every direction. Tireless, fearless, endless. Bess shoved A-Bing out of the carriage first. Go fight. A-Bing face-planted into the mud. But here's the funny thing. The undead knights completely ignored him. He was a skeleton too. Professional courtesy, I guess. A-Bing drew his sword and started smashing skulls. His technique was clumsy, but accurate. Problem was, for every skeleton he killed, 10 more crawled up. A spear punched through our carriage wall. Kundi cut down the attacker instantly. Baron, sir, you'll be safe. I promise. Nice words, Kundi, but I could read the situation. These mercenaries would fight as long as the odds were manageable. The second it got truly hopeless, they'd bolt. Contract or no contract. Gold means nothing to a dead man. The regular skeletons were weak, below 1-star knight level. But the armored ones? Stronger than 2-star knights. And there were a lot of them. I couldn't wait any longer. Plan A was to fatten up Aurora for a few more weeks before attempting awakening. But Plan A just got eaten by a skeleton army. Welcome to Plan B. I pulled out the awakening stone and held it out to the tiny white-haired girl whose eyes were wide as dinner plates. Aurora, do you want to become a witch? Aurora froze. Even though she's not from this continent, she knew how rare awakening stones are. She shook her hands frantically. No way. I don't have the talent to become a witch. What she was really thinking was, if I use his expensive stone and it doesn't work, he's going to snap. He'll sell me to the most sadistic slave trader he can find. Or just kill me himself. Every nice-looking noble I've ever met turned into a psychopath the moment things went wrong. Fair concern, honestly. But the timing for trust issues was terrible. Because right at that moment, the first mercenary squad broke ranks. Big Ears Sis cursed, swung his horse around, and shouted, "Screw this paycheck. I'm out," and galloped away with his entire team. Red-Nosed Deer and Scarface Mondo exchanged a look. Should we also run? Look. I don't get paid enough for skeleton apocalypse. Look. The second Sis bolted, the whole formation collapsed like a Jenga tower. Skeletons poured through the gaps. Casualties skyrocketed. Big Beard Kundi, my most expensive, most reliable mercenary captain, gritted his teeth and did the math in his head. Cross the mountain, finish the job, maybe die. Turn around, lose the paycheck, definitely live. He chose option B, retreat. Every single mercenary knight abandoned us. Dropped everything. Horses at full gallop. 20 elite warriors who swore to protect me vanished in about 8 seconds flat. Bess was apoplectic. You can't do this. We paid. You filthy mercenaries, get back here. I'd already expected this. Mercenaries are employees, not family. When the job becomes, die for some random baron, the resignation letter writes itself. Now it was just me, a terrified old butler, a skeleton with identity issues, and a traumatized little girl, against an army of undead knights. Aurora, if you don't try, we all die here. This is not the time to worry about wasting a rock. But promise me. If I fail, you won't hurt me or sell me, dummy. If you fail, we're all dead. I won't have the chance to hurt you or sell you. There won't be an after. It's literally this or nothing. I put the awakening stone in her tiny hand. She blinked, processed the logic, realized I was 100% correct. Can't be punished by a corpse. Meanwhile, Abing was pulling off moves I did not expect. Being a skeleton himself, the undead soldiers had initially ignored him, professional courtesy among the bone community. He'd been secretly slicing up his own kind like a double agent at a family reunion. But the second the mercenaries left, his betrayal became very obvious. The skeletons surrounded him fast. Then Abing pulled out his secret weapon, that burlap sack of chewed bones he'd been hoarding for days. He rapidly assembled them into a long bone whip. He cracked the whip, and, I am not making this up, a bunch of regular skeleton soldiers ran over and started chewing on it. They just grabbed the bone whip with their mouths and started gnawing. Like dogs with a rope toy. Is this a skeleton thing? Do all skeletons just love bones? Actually, no. The armored elite skeletons didn't care at all. They stepped on their bone-chewing comrades and charged straight for our carriage. So it's apparently only a low-class skeleton thing. Bone addiction hits different when you're at the bottom of the undead social ladder. Bess was vibrating with terror next to me. Be Baron, sir. Are we going to die here? My money. I haven't finished spending it. He finally understood what I'd been telling him. The cruelest thing in the world is dying with money in the bank. Welcome to my philosophy, Bess. Took a skeleton apocalypse to convert you, but better late than never. I kept my eyes locked on Aurora, gripping the acceleration candle behind my back. If she couldn't awaken, that candle was my last card. Not sure what I'd do with it. Speed train myself into a knight in the next 30 seconds? But it was all I had. The undead knights were literally climbing onto our carriage when it happened. The awakening stone lit up like a rainbow. 5 colors swirled, then 4 dropped away, leaving only gold. Sunset-colored light poured out of the stone and flooded the entire carriage. Aurora's eyes turned golden. Power rushed into her body. A glowing mark appeared on her forehead. And then, she started growing. Her tiny body stretched. Limbs lengthened. Features sharpened. In about 10 seconds, the dirty-faced little gremlin who couldn't reach a door handle transformed into a drop-dead, gorgeous teenage girl. Her already pretty face became magazine cover perfect. Starlight eyes. Elegant nose. Lips that poets would write bad sonnets about. And certain geographical features. Went from flat plains to rolling mountain ranges at a speed that defied physics. Her long Gothic dress, which had been dragging on the floor, now a very short skirt. I just witnessed a magical girl transformation sequence. In real life, within no censorship fog, Bess was even more shocked than me. The golden flash nearly blinded his already deteriorating old eyes. A beam of golden light exploded from the carriage, and the first skeleton knight that had stabbed through the wall just disintegrated, turned to powder instantly. Aurora stepped out. Her white hair floated without wind. Her eyes blazed with golden fire. She looked like a goddess who'd accidentally stumbled into a zombie movie and was not happy about it. Is that? Bess's jaw was on the ground. A witch awakening. No time for Q&A, old man. More undead incoming. Aurora raised her hand. A golden pillar of light shot into the sky. Everything it touched, every skeleton, every undead knight, turned to ash. It was like watching someone press delete on an entire army. But her body started swaying. The power was too much for her newly awakened frame. I caught her from behind, and my cheat ability instantly popped up. Aurora has completed her first awakening. Beginner Light Witch. Abilities: Basic Light Manipulation, Light Orbs, Light Shields, Purification Beam. Minor Healing, Surface Wounds only. Light Perception, Detect living things within 50 meters. You okay? Oh, of course I'm okay. I've never been better. I'm amazing. I'm incredible. She was thrilled. The girl who'd been dreaming of growing taller her whole life just shot up from under 1 meter to 166 centimeters in 10 seconds. Her brain was running on pure euphoria. The undead army? Completely annihilated by that single golden blast. Not because the skeleton knights were weak. They'd been kicking mercenary, but just minutes ago. It's just that light magic is basically anti-undead cheat code. Shining holy light on skeletons is like spraying water on paper. They never stood a chance. If Big Beard Candy knew we survived, he'd be punching himself in the face right now. He didn't just lose his paycheck, since he violated the contract and the client, me, is still alive. He owes me a penalty fee. The Mercenary Guild holds all payments in escrow until the mission is done. Candy ran away from money and into debt. Beautiful karma. Bing, who had been busy killing 10 fellow skeletons and upgrading from skeleton servant to bone warrior, saw that purification light and immediately burrowed underground like a panicking mole. Smart move. The light didn't hit him, but his bones were rattling for a solid minute afterward. When he crawled back out, every bone in his body was loose and wobbly, like a badly assembled IKEA shelf. I was about to comfort my poor traumatized future undead emperor when an arrow came out of nowhere and lodged itself directly into Bing's butt. Again with the butt. This skeleton's rear end is apparently a magnet for pointy objects. Bing clutched his backside with the most betrayed expression a faceless skull can possibly make, and slowly turned around. Then dozens more arrows came flying at us. I frowned. More enemies? Seriously? Can I get like 5 minutes of peace? Die, skeleton. Poor Bing got turned into a pincushion before I could even say wait. Arrows sticking out of every bone. He looked like a hedgehog cosplaying as a Halloween decoration. Good news. Bing had already evolved to bone warrior, so none of those arrows actually hurt him. He just stood there looking confused and pointy. A squad of soldiers in infantry armor burst out of the trees, followed by knights on big fancy horses. Their armor had a 4-leaf symbol on it, the 4-leaf territory Knight Order. Since the undead mountains were inside their borders, running into them here made sense. Their captain rode up front. This man had a face shaped like a shoehorn, a brown beard with a butterfly bow tied at the bottom. Who does that? And he was looking down at us through his nostrils like we were something stuck to his boot. His eyes scanned me. Skinny, sunburned, not impressive. Moved to Bess. Old, trembling, also not impressive. Then landed on Aurora. His Adam's apple bobbed. He swallowed hard. Yeah, buddy, I saw that. Eyes up here, shoehorn face. To his credit, he immediately dropped the arrogant act, jumped off his horse, and walked straight over. Not to me, the actual Baron. To Aurora. Beautiful lady. I hope you weren't frightened. Aurora hid behind me like I was a human shield, which, considering my current body mass, was like hiding behind a lamppost. But at least I'm tall. Bess jumped in with his best professional butler voice. This is my master, Baron Edward. We're heading to Red Moon territory. We just got attacked by undead knights, and our mercenary escorts all ran away. Could you please escort us? It's only one more day. We'll compensate you. The knights started laughing before Bess could even finish. Red Moon territory? Someone actually got sent there? We wouldn't go to that hellhole if you paid us. It's not just werewolves anymore. There's undead monsters everywhere now, too. Oh, wonderful. My new home just got an upgrade. Werewolves and zombies. It's a monster combo meal. Shoehorn Face coughed to shut his men up and gave me a polite bow. Baron, I'm sorry, but we can't leave 4-leaf territory without our lord's orders. He'd already figured out who I was. Black hair. Heading to Red Moon territory. The Edward family orphan. Basically, I was walking radioactive waste that nobody wanted to touch. Then he turned to his soldiers. Take that skeleton. We're heading back. I stepped forward. That skeleton is my slave. He has papers. You can't take him. Bess backed me up immediately. That's right. He has a legal slave contract. You have no authority. Bess was feeling brave now. We had a baron and a freshly awakened witch. What were 50 knights gonna do? Bing tried to hide behind me like Aurora had done. Except he was 6 feet tall, covered in arrows, and looked like a walking cactus. Stealth was not his strong suit. Shoehorn Face shrugged. Fine, you're slave. But watch out, skeletons near the undead mountains tend to go rogue. I changed the subject. Haas Mountain is 4-leaf territory's outer region. You're supposed to clear undead regularly. So why did we just get ambushed by an entire undead knight army? He stroked his ugly beard. Bad luck, really. There was a magical surge from the undead mountains recently. It's been dormant for 50 years. Everyone thought it was dead. Turns out it's very much alive. The surge drove monsters everywhere, into Haas Mountain, into 4-leaf territory, and especially into Red Moon territory. My cheat ability lit up like a Christmas tree. This appears to be an ordinary knight captain, but he's actually Simon the Chronic Liar. 4-leaf territory is heavily connected to this magical surge. Most of the monsters in Red Moon territory were deliberately driven there by them. Oh, you absolute scumbag. They didn't just, accidentally, have monsters spill into my territory. They herded them there. Like cattle. Except the cattle are flesh-eating undead monstrosities. Part of me understood the logic. If your territory has a monster problem, pushing them next door is easier than fighting them yourself. Especially when, next door, is a wasteland nobody cares about. But I was the new owner of that wasteland, and I cared very much. Good neighbors bring you pie. These neighbors brought me armies of the dead. I climbed into the carriage, pulled out my official document folder, and came back swinging. This folder contains my appointment papers and Red Moon Territory's official records. The records say Red Moon Territory has werewolves. Nothing about undead monsters. I have every reason to believe Four Leaf Territory deliberately pushed these creatures into my land. Take me to your lord. Now, I want an explanation for why a territory your people are supposed to manage is leaking monsters into mine. Shoehorn Simon's jaw dropped slightly. He stared at me. This scrawny, sunburned kid with a porcupine skeleton, a shaking old man, and a pretty girl, and his brain clearly couldn't process the audacity. Who gave this orphan the nerve? He hasn't even started his job yet, and he's picking fights with one of the strongest territories around? We have 50 knights here. He has. Whatever that is. I could see the gears turning behind his shoehorn face. He was thinking, if I stall him long enough, he'll miss his appointment deadline. Imperial law says unappointed lords forfeit their position. He'll be finished without me lifting a finger. The smirk that spread across his face told me everything. Of course, Baron Edward. If you wish to see our lord, please follow me. He thought he was leading me into a trap. Cute. Baron sir, we don't have much time. Do we really need to make this detour? Bess was sweating bullets about missing my appointment deadline. Miss the deadline. Lose the title. Lose my head. Lose his head too, probably. Relax, Bess. Aurora just fought an entire skeleton army. She needs food and rest. We're going. I climbed into our battle-damaged carriage, which now had a lovely new ventilation hole courtesy of a skeleton spear, and Aurora and Abing piled in after me. Bess sighed the sigh of a man whose retirement plan dies a little more every day, and went to negotiate with Shoehorn Simon for some horses. Our original horses had been killed by the skeleton horde. R.I.P., noble steeds. You deserved better than being murdered by the undead on a Tuesday. Simon graciously donated 2 mediocre black-maned horses. Graciously, meaning the worst horses he had that could still technically walk. The second Aurora got inside the carriage and relaxed, her body shrank back down. Tall, gorgeous witch goddess vanished. Tiny, dirt-faced gremlin returned. Like Cinderella at midnight, except instead of losing a glass slipper, she lost 2 feet of height and a whole lot of chest. My magic wore off, she grumbled, staring down at her tiny hands with extreme disappointment. She'd gotten a taste of being tall, and she was not happy about going back to looking up everyone's nostrils. It's not that the magic wore off. You're just hungry. Once you eat, you should be able to switch forms again. Her eyes lit up like someone offered her a lifetime buffet pass. Then she caught herself, turned away from me, twisted her fingers together nervously, and launched into the most hilariously contradictory speech I've ever heard. Just because you gave me the awakening stone and turned me into a witch doesn't mean I'm grateful or anything. And I would never say something like, thank you, master, you're so great, I'll follow you forever. Give up. I will never accept being someone's slave. You're not a slave anymore. From now on, you're an official citizen of Red Moon Territory. She whipped around so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. You'll really set me free? I never said you had to be my slave. But if you wanted to become Red Moon Territory's guardian witch, I'd be very happy. See, I'd spent the last few days studying Aurora's personality. She's a girl full of secrets, but actually very simple once you crack the code. Proud but scared. Rebellious but lonely. Definitely a noble, but probably an illegitimate child, which is why she's terrified of people and has mild social anxiety. Keeping her with a slave contract? Terrible strategy. The moment she gets strong enough, she'd rip my face off. Freedom is the only leash that actually holds. Aurora's eyes went red. She turned her back to me. Her shoulders started shaking. What's wrong? I patted her shoulder. She wiped her eyes aggressively and bit her lip. I'm not crying. I'm not touched. And I absolutely will not say thank you, my lord. I will be loyal to you forever. So don't even dream about it, that you literally just said the exact thing you claimed you wouldn't say. Word for word, with quotation marks and everything. I decided not to point this out. Self-preservation instincts. She spun around, eyes still puffy, and puffed out her chest. Red Moon territory is full of werewolves. Nobody in their right mind would go there. Only I would be crazy enough to be its guardian witch. I nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. You're completely right. 100%. Are you just humoring me? No, definitely not. She's my strongest card. Without her, I probably won't survive my first day in the territory. Humor her? I'd build her a statue if she asked. Aurora grinned, showing off 2 little fang teeth, hands on her hips. Well then, since I'm the guardian witch now, Red Moon territory is under MY protection. I've got your back. Power really does inflate people's egos. 5 minutes ago, she was a trembling lowly hiding behind me. Now she's declaring herself the protector of an entire territory. Which ma'am? The Baron is actually the Lord. Bess whispered weakly from the corner, suddenly remembering he'd called her a bottomless pit earlier and getting nervous. Aurora ignored him. Bess lived another day. We performed the witch contract. Our palms pressed together, and her light mark burned from her hand onto the back of mine. Felt like someone pressed a hot iron on my skin for a second, then it faded and was replaced by this weird soul-level resonance. For one brief moment, we could feel each other completely. Transparent. Nothing hidden. Aurora yanked her hand back, face bright red. Done. That was a strange feeling. She agreed, but would rather die than admit it out loud. She retreated to Abing's corner of the carriage, sat down, and stared at his bones. Abing clutched his bone collection and gave her a suspicious look. She was a light witch, his natural predator, and she was eyeing his snacks. I don't want your chewed-up bones, she said, swallowing drool. I pulled out her old slave contract and ripped it to pieces. With the witch contract in place, this paper was meaningless. Also dramatic. Very dramatic. 10 out of 10 for presentation. Our carriage rolled into the 4-leaf town. Through the window, I saw a proper medieval city. Pointed rooftops, sun lamps hanging on every door, garlic cloves everywhere, demon-repelling stones on windowsills. These people took monster defense very seriously. Shoehorn Simon trotted up alongside the carriage. It's getting late. Find an inn, sleep. I'll inform the Lord of your visit. He'll schedule a meeting when he's ready. Translation: I'm going to stall you until you miss your deadline and die. I waved him closer. He came, suspicious. Simon, I have a very good temper. But my contract which doesn't share my patience. His face went through about 6 emotions in 2 seconds. Contract witch. This broke orphan has a contract witch. The family that got destroyed for rebellion somehow recruited one of the rarest, most powerful beings on the continent. His first instinct was to laugh. His shoehorn face literally twitched into a smirk. And which one would be your contract witch? The white-haired girl you were drooling over earlier. I watched the gears turn. Pretty girl. White hair. Red eyes. They found them in the middle of Haas Mountain with no escort and no injuries. After an undead night ambush that should have killed everyone. Because a witch obliterated them. Witches can destroy entire cities. Simon's smirk evaporated like morning dew on a hot day. Actually, now that I think about it, our Lord is extremely hospitable. If he knew Baron Edward was visiting, he would insist on meeting you immediately. Please, right this way. Fastest attitude change in recorded history. 0 to maximum hospitality in 3 seconds flat. For Leaf territory, the Lord's mansion. The guy in charge was Royce Brew, a golden-haired, blue-eyed, spectacularly fat middle-aged man sitting on an elevated throne, looking down at us like we were a circus act that showed up without being booked. I could see his eyes scanning our squad. One sunburned teenager, one elderly butler who looked like a strong wind could finish him, one tiny white-haired girl, and one skeleton covered in arrow holes. He shot a look at Shoehorn Simon that screamed, "You brought this to my mansion?" Why? Simon was confused too. Last time he saw us, Aurora was a 6-foot knockout goddess radiating golden destruction. Now she was back to being a 4-foot-something lowly who couldn't reach the top shelf. He kept looking around the room like the hot which was hiding behind a curtain somewhere. Maybe. She has a sister? My lord, this is Baron Edward, the new lord of Red Moon territory. Then Simon leaned in and whispered the magic words. He has a contract witch. Royce had. Been halfway through mentally composing his "get out of my house" speech when those two words hit him like a truck. His entire body language did a complete 180. His piggy eyes swept across our group and landed on the only female candidate, Aurora. White hair, red eyes, noble posture, cold expression. Yeah, she looked the part. What Royce didn't know was that Aurora's cold aristocratic aura was actually just social anxiety wearing a trench coat. She'd spent her childhood as an illegitimate noble daughter getting bullied and ignored, so she'd learned to slap on a poker face to keep people from getting close enough to make her cry over small kindnesses. The Ice Queen act was just her emotional armor. But hey, it looked very convincing. My cheat ability fired off the moment I looked at Royce. Royce Brew appears to be an ordinary lord, but has ambitions way above his pay grade. He's been eyeing the Silverstone mines in the Undead Mountains. The recent magical surge? Yeah, that's his fault. Well. So Fatty here caused the monster explosion that nearly got me killed. And Silverstone mines? That's basically magic world rebar. Harder than anything. Perfect for building walls, weapons, fortifications. And this mine just happened to be near where Four Leaf Territory and Red Moon Territory border each other. That mine was going into MY Pocket. My broke, werewolf-infested, monster-plagued territory needed an industry, and Royce just showed me where the gold, Silverstone, was buried. I also caught him staring at Aurora with those eyes. This man wanted to steal my witch. He was already scheming. Right on cue, his fat butt squeezed out of his fancy chair, and he waddled over, smiling like a used car salesman. Baron Edward, welcome to Four Leaf Territory. And this must be your contract witch? Simon jumped in immediately. No, my lord. The contract witch is someone else. A very, very beautiful woman. They whispered to each other like schoolgirls sharing gossip. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught the important parts. Royce ordered Simon to find my witch, and keep her here by any means necessary. Oh, you want to poach MY witch? From a guy who has nothing left to lose? Bold strategy, Fatty. I already knew his game plan. Stall me. Throw parties. Make me miss my appointment deadline. Once the deadline passes, Imperial law says I lose my title and get executed. Then my ownerless, which becomes up for grabs. Not bad, Royce. Not bad at all. Except for the part where I'm going to eat all your food first. To celebrate our distinguished guest, we must hold a grand banquet. Royce clapped his hands. Prepare the feast, I smiled warmly. How could I possibly refuse such generosity? Step 1. Feed Aurora until she can transform again. The mansion's servants took us to bathrooms, scrubbed us clean, and dressed us in fancy clothes. Then the banquet began. The long table was loaded. Roasted goose glistening with fat and spices. Giant lobster claws arranged like art. Mountains of fruit, so ripe they looked ready to burst. This was the kind of food I hadn't seen since. Well, since never, actually. Not in this life anyway. No wonder Royce was shaped like a beach ball. If I ate like this every day, I need 2 chairs too. Royce stood up with his wine glass. A toast. To our honored guest, Baron Edward. May your time in Four Leaf Territory be truly unforgettable. Oh, I bet you'd like it to be permanent. I toasted back with a smile. The second the wine was down, Royce signaled, and a parade of dancing girls floated in wearing outfits made of approximately 3 threads of silk. They spun and swayed to the music. So this was the strategy? Wine, women, and entertainment until I forget I have a territory to claim? The old, distract him with luxury, play? I turned to Aurora. Eat everything. Eat as much as you want. Don't hold back. Our generous host Lord Royce would be insulted if you showed restraint. Aurora glanced at the mountain of food, then at Royce's enormous belly, and lifted her chin. Food of this caliber is hardly worth abandoning my ladylike elegance. She then proceeded to abandon her ladylike elegance at record speed. She was shoveling food in with both hands. Lobster in the left, goose leg in the right, bread roll somehow balanced on her knee. Cheeks puffed out like a hamster stockpiling for winter. This is good. This is good. This is good too. MMHM, truly. Your elegance remains untouched. A being had his own priorities. He was systematically stripping every bone of its meat. The meat he ignored completely, and stuffing clean bones into a bag for later. Doggy bagging at a noble's formal banquet. Bess looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and die of embarrassment. Bess, relax. Our generous Lord Royce threw us this party because he loves us. He won't mind a few bones disappearing. Eat, drink, enjoy the moment. I grabbed one of the gorgeous dancing girls and pushed her into Bess's lap. The woman poured him wine with a sultry smile. Another glass, sir? Bess turned the color of a fire engine. And no, I couldn't possibly. His mouth said no. His hand was already holding the glass. His ex-wife was already a distant memory evaporating into the champagne bubbles. Being single is wonderful, he thought. Being single forever is more wonderful. Meanwhile, Royce watched us gorging ourselves and smirked. Simon, did you find the witch? Searched the entire territory. Nothing. She might not have entered the city. Maybe she's still on Haas Mountain. Then why are you standing here? Go find her. Royce kicked Simon in the butt. Literally. Boot to rear end. Do you know how much I pay for mages every year? Get me that witch. Simon scrambled away, rubbing his backside. Same side A-Bing keeps getting stabbed. Something about this territory targets, butt cheeks specifically. I looked at Aurora. Her belly was round as a basketball. Full. I can try transforming now? I stopped her. Not yet. I looked at Royce and smiled. We'd eaten his food, drunk his wine, let his dancing girls entertain our butler. Aurora was fully charged. Time to rip the mask off. I set my wine glass down and let the smile slide off my face like butter off a hot pan. Lord Royce, funny thing. When I entered your city, everyone was talking about how you drove all the undead monsters from the undead mountains into Red Moon territory. That mountain range is your jurisdiction. Pushing your garbage into my front yard. Don't you think that's a little rude? Royce stiffened for half a second. Then his 20 years of political experience kicked in, and he went into full denial mode. Baron, you must have misheard. Common folk gossip, you know how it is. We manage the undead mountains responsibly. There was simply an unexpected magical surge, a natural disaster. Monsters escaped everywhere. Even our villages were affected. And if more ended up in Red Moon territory, well, that's only because Red Moon has no knights to scare them away. Our brave four-leaf knights frightened the monsters so badly, they all ran to your land. Really, it's a compliment to our military strength. Honestly, decent speech. Even Bess was nodding along like, yeah, that makes sense. Too bad I actually have eyes. If the monsters were driven away by your knights, how come I didn't see a single destroyed village or damaged road on my way in? And why does every household have sun lamps, garlic, and demon-repelling stones already hanging on their doors? Unless you knew the surge was coming, nobody prepares like that. Royce's eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected me to notice interior decorating choices. Pure coincidence. Our people are sun god worshippers. The church distributes sun lamps. The garlic is just local tradition. And those stones? Just regular decorative rocks. Regular rocks, huh? Funny, I picked one up on my way in. I held up a demon-repelling stone. If it's just a regular rock, throwing it at my skeleton servant should do absolutely nothing. But if it's real demon-repelling stone, A-Bing heard, throwing it at my skeleton, and immediately retreated across the room, hiding among the dancing girls. The girls scattered like pigeons, leaving him standing alone and very exposed. I waved him over. He walked toward me like a man. Well, skeleton, approaching his own execution. I chucked the stone at his skull. Crack. It dented his head like a ping-pong ball hitting a soda can. A-Bing howled in pain. See? Real demon-repelling stone. A-Bing gave me the most betrayed look a faceless skull has ever produced. Those empty eye sockets were somehow dripping with accusation. I secretly gave him a thumbs up behind my back. Good job, A-Bing. You're a hero. He was not comforted. Not until I tossed him a big bone. Then suddenly the head trauma was ancient history. Royce realized his lies had been demolished and dropped the act entirely. What do you want, Baron Edward? Simple. I want to help you with your problems. Help? What do you mean, help? Everyone used to think the undead mountains were a dead volcano. No eruptions, no danger. But now we know it's active. It could blow again anytime. You've got hundreds of thousands of people in four-leaf territory living next to a ticking monster bomb. Must be very stressful for you. But Red Moon territory? It's already a wasteland. Barely any people. If monsters flood in, it just goes from terrible to slightly more terrible. So here's my offer. We'll take the heat for you. We'll be the monster buffer zone. Whatever it takes. Even if it costs us our last citizen. Royce squinted at me. This felt too good. Way too good. You're saying I can just push all the monsters into Red Moon territory. Exactly. But, I continued, raising my glass, the undead mountains would need to be transferred to Red Moon territory's jurisdiction. We manage the source. You sleep peacefully. Bess nearly launched out of his chair. Baron sir, we can't take over the undead mountains. Red Moon territory is already dangerous enough. Bess, Lord Royce has been so generous tonight. The least we can do is share his burden. Shut up and drink your wine. Bess slumped back down, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Royce looked at me, looked at Bess, suspected we were doing a rehearsed good cop bad cop routine, which we absolutely were not. Bess was genuinely panicking. The undead mountains are a headache, but we can't just dump our responsibilities onto Red Moon territory. That's our problem, Edward my boy. I appreciate your kindness, truly. Translation, give you my Silverstone mines? Over my dead body. You really feel that way? Absolutely. Four-leaf territory handles its own messes. Then, the monsters that already escaped into Red Moon territory are also Four-Leaf's responsibility, right? Royce's face froze. He realized he'd walked directly into my trap. Here's the thing, Royce old buddy. If the undead mountains belong to me, then escaped monsters are my problem. But since you just confirmed they belong to you, those monsters are your responsibility. And according to Imperial Law Article 545, the hunting compensation rule, anyone who clears monsters can claim bounties from the responsible jurisdiction. So we'll clean up your mess in Red Moon territory, and you just pay us the standard rate. Fair. I didn't actually want the undead mountains today. The document bag I'd waved at Simon earlier? Full of blank paper. I had zero real intel on Red Moon territory. Demanding the mountains outright from a guy like Royce was impossible. People never give away valuable resources voluntarily. But making him pay me to clean up his monsters? That was just step one. Eventually, when the mountain becomes too expensive to maintain and too dangerous to keep, he'll BG me to take it. Patience. Bess heard. Pay us, and his eyes turned into gold coins. Aurora didn't care about money. She was sitting there with a belly rounder than a volleyball, thinking one thing. When is he going to let me transform? I want to be tall again. Let me be tall. Royce's face darkened. Wait, they clear the monsters from their own territory and charge me for it? These monsters are already in Red Moon. They're your problem now. You want to pull money from my wallet for cleaning your house? His generous host mask crumbled. He snapped his fingers. Guards flooded the banquet hall from every entrance. Swords drawn. The metallic ring of unsheathed blades echoed beautifully off the walls. Very cinematic. 10 out of 10 for dramatic timing. Royce stroked his jeweled rings, flashed a gold tooth, and smiled. Edward, my boy, it's not that I'm refusing your help. We simply don't have the budget. Why don't you think it over? Maybe we can chat more later. Translation. I have 50 armed guards, and you have a skeleton with a dented head. Want to reconsider your position? I glanced at Aurora. 5 seconds later, I was standing behind a 6-foot glowing goddess whose white hair floated in supernatural wind, golden light radiating from her eyes, the air around her crackling with barely contained divine destruction. I smiled at Royce from behind my fully charged, freshly fed, extremely eager to transform guardian witch. Royce, old buddy. It's not that I don't understand Four Leaf's financial difficulties. It's just that Red Moon territory really wants to help. Why don't you think it over? Maybe we can chat more. Now, Royce's jaw almost hit the floor. The witch he'd sent Simon running all over the territory to find was standing right in front of him. The tiny white-haired snack machine. The lowly was the witch. He mentally cursed Simon into next century and immediately pivoted to plan steal the witch. He looked straight past me, rude, and went directly at Aurora. Miss Witch, what's the point of being contracted to a broke baron? He can't give you resources, he can't pay you well, he can't help you advance. Stay in Four-Leaf territory. I'll give you anything. Wealth, status, glory, awakening stones, as many as you want. He wasn't even trying to be subtle, just openly poaching my most valuable asset to my face, while I was standing right there. To be fair, he had a point. Advancing from beginner witch to intermediate requires a second awakening, and the stone cost is 100 times the first one. I couldn't afford that in my wildest dreams right now. Bess was shaking so hard, he looked like a human earthquake. If Aurora switched sides, we were dead. Literally. Royce would lock us up until we missed the appointment deadline, then chop off our heads legally. A-Bing started speed-packing bones into his bag. Smart skeleton. Always prepare for the worst-case scenario. Aurora put on her coldest face. Red Moon territory is the kind of place nobody would ever willingly go. Royce's eyes sparkled. His hands started rubbing together. She's coming. She's definitely coming over. Bess's blood pressure spiked, so high I thought his head was going to pop. Aurora continued. And if I don't go, Red Moon territory will never find a guardian witch. So I can't abandon it. I refuse your offer. No matter how much money, resources, or support you throw at me, I won't stay. Yes, exactly, wait. I'm sorry, what? Royce buffered like a dial-up modem. It took his brain a full 5 seconds to process that he'd been rejected. Why? How? Red Moon territory versus four-leaf territory was literally hell versus paradise. What kind of witch chooses the dumpster? Bess burst into grateful tears. A-Bing kept packing bones. I raised an eyebrow at Royce with my best, that's right, fatty, expression. I refuse, Aurora repeated, just to twist the knife. Royce took 10,000 points of psychic damage. If the conditions aren't enough, we can negotiate. Anything you want. I refuse. The man looked like he was about to have a cardiac event. His watching Jack career had never suffered such a humiliating defeat. He turned to me with the fakest smile ever manufactured by human facial muscles. I was merely testing your witch's loyalty. Congratulations on having such a devoted contract witch. Oh, should I be thanking you then? He waved the guards away with a sigh of defeat. Hard to threaten someone when their walking nuclear weapon just publicly declared undying loyalty. Aurora looked disappointed as the guards retreated. She'd been hoping to use them for target practice. 30 minutes later, we had a signed deal, the Undead Mountains Monster Cleanup Cooperation Agreement. Royce agreed to let Red Moon territory clear monsters and collect bounties from four-leaf territory's budget, and provided an escort to take us the rest of the way. Better to give me a small favor than make enemies with a witch-owning lord. Besides, Royce figured I'd be too busy surviving Red Moon territory to ever actually collect bounties. This agreement would probably just be a worthless piece of paper. Oh, sweet summer Royce. You have no idea. I also stopped by the Wilmore Mercenary Guild's four-leaf branch office and collected 3,000 gold in penalty fees from Big Beard Kundi's contract violation. That's right, Kundi. You ran away from your paycheck and now you owe me money. Karma's beautiful. I spent almost everything immediately. Food, medicine, seeds, tools, sun lamps, demon-repelling stones, converting gold into survival supplies. Walked out with only 200 gold coins left. Where I was going, there probably wasn't anything to buy anyway. With the four-leaf night escort, we reached Red Moon territory the next day. And, wow, this place made every bad thing I'd heard about it sound like a tourism commercial. The sky was permanently covered in gray fog so thick that sunlight couldn't break through. At night, a blood-red moon hung overhead like a giant evil eye, casting creepy crimson light everywhere. That's why they called it Red Moon territory. Not for fun, because the moon literally looks like it's bleeding. The villages were abandoned ruins. Collapsed roofs. Cracked walls swallowed by vines and moss. White bones scattered among the rubble. Former residents who never made it out. Wolves howled in every direction. Undead whispered in the fog. This wasn't a territory. This was a horror movie set. No wonder every noble in the empire avoided this place like plague. Even the greediest merchants wouldn't touch it. The only humans who ended up here were desperate refugees and wanted criminals with nowhere else to run. The four-leaf knights dumped us at the border and left so fast they practically teleported. Not 1 second of extra time spent in this nightmare zone. Bess clutched his sun lamp like it was the last flashlight on Earth. Baron, sir. We've arrived. Yep. Let's find a building and set up camp. Moon's already out. Here. Bess heard the wolf howls and instinctively scooted closer to Aurora. Only the light, which could make him feel even slightly safe anymore. I pointed at a nearby ruin that looked slightly less destroyed than the others. That one's not too bad. Fix it up a bit and it's livable. I was 100% certain no lord had ever actually lived here before me. The Empire told me to pioneer this land, and they were not exaggerating. Bess and A-Bing started unloading supplies into the broken-down building. I was about to step inside when both of them came sprinting back out like their butts were on fire. Run, run, Baron Sir. Old Bess unlocked a speed I didn't know his ancient legs possessed. 3 steps compressed into 2, launching himself out of that building like a cannonball made of arthritis and regret. Abing's precious bone bag got snagged on something behind him and exploded. Bones flew everywhere like the world's worst piñata. He let out this sad, woo-woo sound, which, by the way, was the first time I'd ever heard him make any noise. This whole time I thought he was mute. Turns out he just needed someone to scatter his bone collection to find his voice. Before I could even step back, a pack of ghouls came pouring out of the building like roaches when you turn the kitchen lights on. Aurora threw up a light shield just in time. Thank God for contract witches with full stomachs. These ghouls had apparently just moved in from the undead mountains. They were sitting in there starving, and then we showed up like a DoorDash delivery they didn't order. My cheat ability gave me the full breakdown. Ghouls, common undead mountains monsters. Look like rotting humans, gray skin, shriveled muscles, knife-sharp teeth, razor claws that can shred flesh like paper. Their spit is poisonous enough to paralyze or rot you alive. Extremely territorial, they'll attack anything that enters their space, including other monsters. Weakness, fire. Bright light temporarily paralyzes them. Most vulnerable body part, the sphincter. The sphincter? Again with the butts? Is this world obsessed with rear-end combat? Whatever. I'm not here to question destiny. I'm here to win. Aurora, use light to freeze them. Bing, move in and stab their butts. I gave the orders without hesitation. Free experience points were crawling out of a building at me. Not using this to power level Bing would be criminal. On it, Aurora nodded, charged up a light orb, and blasted the ghouls with a flash brighter than a stadium spotlight. Every ghoul instantly locked up like someone hit their pause button. Bing charged in with his sword and went straight for the weak point. Stab, stab, stab. The butt assassin was back in business. Every time the ghouls started recovering, Aurora would hit them with another flash, freezing them mid-movement. Then Bing would resume his rear-end rampage. 1 stab not enough. 2 stabs. Still moving? 3 stabs. The man had found his calling, and his calling was very specific. The two of them worked together like a beautifully disgusting machine. Aurora was the crowd control goddess. Bing was the damage-dealing but specialist. Within minutes, every single ghoul was eliminated. Skeleton Bing killed 15 ghouls. Bone Warrior, low. Upgraded to Bone Warrior, mid. Bone Blade Generation LV1-LV3 can grow weapon-shaped bones from his arms. Basic Necro Resonance LV1-LV3 can control up to 5 low-level skeletons. Dark Corrosion Resistance LV1-LV3, immune to normal corrosion. Bing could now grow swords out of his ARMS and command other skeletons. My little butt stabber was becoming a real warrior. Aurora, meanwhile, got nothing from the fight except hunger. Her upgrade system was completely different. No grinding, no experience points. She needed awakening stones and rituals. But right now, one Aurora could demolish 100 peak-level bone warriors without breaking a sweat. She was basically a max-level player escorting a newbie through the tutorial dungeon. Baron Sir, when the Edward family was alive, we never had to live like this. Sleeping in monster-infested ruins. Bess was crying, actually sobbing. His legs were still shaking from the ghoul encounter, and his dignity had left the building approximately 3 territories ago. I think this place is pretty nice, actually. Bing, go recruit some neighbors. We need help cleaning. Bing ran off and came back with 5 little skeleton buddies. If there's one thing Red Moon territory has plenty of, it's skeletons. They were brainless, slow, and couldn't think for themselves. Basically unpaid interns. But they could sweep floors and carry boxes, so I wasn't complaining. The skeleton cleaning crew got to work, and within a couple hours, we had ourselves a home. 3 floors, 5 bedrooms, 3 living rooms, 2 bathrooms, a genuine mini-mansion. Sure, the walls had holes and the roof leaked, but those were tomorrow problems. I'd bought furniture in 4-leaf territory, so we had sofas, rugs, paintings, beds, bookshelves, desks, dishes, and lamps. The chandelier on the ceiling still had old candles in it. Lit those up, and suddenly the whole place felt warm and cozy. Aurora collapsed onto the sofa and smiled. She'd helped clean every room, and even climbed onto the roof to patch holes. This was her house now. She'd earned it. Is this going to be our home? This is the future Lord's mansion. And we can always expand. Through the big glass windows, we could see a yard full of weeds taller than Aurora's lowly form. Needed cutting. But that was tomorrow's problem too. I went to my new study, pulled out the appointment document, bit my finger, and dripped blood onto it. The paper glowed gold and vanished. Done. Official. I was now, legally and magically, the Lord of Red Moon territory. I let out the longest exhale of my entire life. Both lives. No more deadlines. No more execution threats. No more running. I had a territory. A terrible, monster-infested, fog-covered, werewolf-plagued territory. But it was mine. Tomorrow I'd check the walls, find any surviving villagers, figure out how many people I actually had. Some of the undead mountain monsters would go to leveling up a Bing. Some would get traded to 4-leaf territory for bounty cash. And I needed to scout for resources, anything to start building wealth in this wasteland. A chill ran through me, not from the fog outside, from the tiny candle stub in my pocket. 1 centimeter. That's all that was left of my acceleration candle, the legendary training tool of Knight Roland. Aurora and A-Bing had their own paths to power now. Aurora had her witch awakening system. A-Bing had his kill and evolve grind. But me? I was still just a skinny, barely trained teenager who couldn't beat a single ghoul in a fair fight. I closed the door, lit the candle. The flame flickered, and in its warm glow, the stern face of the legendary Knight Roland materialized. He looked at me the way a teacher looks at a student who showed up to the final exam with no pencil. What is your dream? Roland the legendary knight stepped out of the candlelight, hands behind his back, staring at me like a drill sergeant evaluating a recruit who showed up wearing his pants backwards. What is your dream? He asks this every time. And here's the trick nobody knows. This question is a trap. Say, power, money, women, or fame, and Roland turns around, walks back into the candle, and you get nothing. The candle becomes a regular speed-up candle with 0 mentorship included. But say, I want to be a great knight like you. Boom. He lights up, adopts you as his spiritual successor, and teaches you everything he knows. This is probably why nobody ever discovered the candle came with a free legendary teacher. Everyone who bought it probably wished for gold or a bigger castle and got ghosted by a dead man. I want to become a great knight like you, Master Roland. Roland's eyes sparkled. He nodded with satisfaction. Good. A knight must become friends with his sword. Tell me your current level so I can guide you properly. I'm roughly a trainee knight, I think. I honestly wasn't sure. My cheat ability shows me information about everything. People, objects, monsters, random rocks. But it refuses to show me my own stats. Like a phone that can photograph everything except itself. I could only guess based on how fights went, and currently I couldn't beat A-Bing, which put me somewhere between, slightly better than a regular person, and still kind of pathetic. Roland frowned. You have a long road ahead, child. Yes, teacher. Focus on fundamentals. Grip, stance, footwork. Build muscle memory. Coordinate your hands, eyes, and body. Train your strength to increase sword speed and power. Practice against a partner. Here, use me as your opponent. When you can land a hit on me, you'll be a true knight. I drew my sword and swung at him. I did not land a hit. Not that day. Not the next day. Not any day that week. But after 7 nights of candle-accelerated training with a legendary ghost coach, my body underwent a genuine transformation. I'd gone from sun-dried scarecrow to actually healthy young man, legitimate trainee knight physique. My muscles existed now. I could run without getting winded. Revolutionary stuff. Then the candle burned out. I stared at the tiny puddle of wax where my most valuable possession used to be. Gone. Like my family fortune, my comfortable life, and my skin's original color. But Roland's teachings were burned into my brain forever. Every stance, every correction, every disappointed sigh, all saved in my mental hard drive. And now I had A-Bing, a mid-level bone warrior equivalent to a 2-star knight, as my permanent sparring partner. Trading a legendary ghost teacher for a skeleton training dummy? Downgrade of the century. But it was free. After my bath, I sat down for dinner with Aurora. Bess stood by the wall like a proper butler, refusing to join us. Bess, you worked hard today. Sit down and eat with us. What followed was the most passionate speech I've ever heard about not eating dinner. Baron sir, a servant eating at the same table as his lord? This would destroy your noble reputation. Other aristocrats would mock you. You must be traumatized. Oh, poor Baron. The Edward family may be gone, but you are still a peer of the realm. You must maintain dignity. If you ask me to sit at this table again, I will have failed my duty to the late Earl. Even in death, his spirit will scold me. My soul will never know peace. I gave up. 21st century equality principles are apparently no match for medieval butler pride. Aurora had shrunk back to lowly size. Turns out every time she fights, she burns through her energy and deflates like a balloon. She was furious about it, and she was taking that fury out on her steak. The poor piece of meat got dissected into approximately 47 pieces. It didn't deserve this. Bess hung the sun lamps outside and placed demon-repelling stones around the perimeter. The stones gave off a smell that kept low-level undead away, and the lamplight countered the red moonlight, which also helped repel werewolves. Night 1 in our new home passed without incident. Miracle. Next morning, I went to inspect Red Moon Territory's city walls. Plot twist, there were no city walls. Nobody had ever governed this place before me. No lord means no walls. No walls means no defense. No defense means everything with teeth and claws can walk right in whenever it feels hungry. Building walls was priority number 1. But walls need workers. Workers need to be alive. So step 1 was actually finding out if any humans still existed in this territory. Over the next month, we fell into a routine. Aurora and A-Bing cleared monsters from abandoned villages while I practiced sword fighting on the weaker ones. Bess managed supplies and complained. The skeleton crew, literally, actual skeletons, handled construction. The Lord's mansion expanded beyond the original villa. We added a warehouse, stables, and a plantation area. Unfortunately, the soil was so contaminated with dark magic that nothing would grow without expensive purification potions. We cleaned out every village within walking distance. Enough housing for 100 people. Current population, 0 humans, several dozen obedient skeletons, 1 grumpy butler, 1 shape-shifting witch, and 1 skeleton with a bone addiction. 1 entire month and not a single human survivor found. Starting to think this place really was as dead as advertised. A-Bing, on the other hand, was thriving. The territory was basically an all-you-can-kill buffet for him. He'd gone from Bone Warrior, mid, to Bone Warrior, high. All his skills were maxing out. He could grow bone weapons from his ARMS now, control 10 skeletons at once, and was completely immune to corrosion. His swordsmanship had also leveled up to LV2, with his specialty, officially listed as, and I am not making this up, proficient in rear-end stabbing. His resume would be the most terrifying and confusing document any employer has ever read. I'd leveled up too. Trainee Knight to 1-star Knight. I could finally solo weak monsters without embarrassing myself. Against anything strong though, especially werewolves, I'd still get absolutely demolished. Werewolves were above Bone Warrior level, and with the Red Moon buffing them, they were basically unkillable without Aurora. Without Aurora, this entire operation would collapse in about 12 hours. After a month of grinding, I surveyed our captured monster haul. 12 werewolves, 23 ghouls, 45 skeletons, and 1 corrupted giant beast. All restrained and ready for delivery. Pack up, everyone. We're going to 4-leaf territory to cash in our bounties. No farmland. No income. No trade. Our only revenue stream was literally dragging monsters next door and saying, "These are your responsibility. Pay up." Life as a frontier lord, where your main export is captured nightmares and your biggest customer is the neighbor who created the problem in the first place. Before leaving for 4-leaf territory, I had to make sure my house wouldn't become a werewolf Airbnb while I was gone. I left A-Bing and Bess behind as the home defense team. But since A-Bing, even at peak Bone Warrior, still couldn't beat a werewolf in a fair fight, I needed to make fair completely irrelevant. After a month of studying werewolves, I'd mapped out their 3 main advantages. Moon rage, they get stronger under the red moon. Flesh regeneration, they heal like wolverines. And scent tracking, their noses are basically GPS. So I designed countermeasures for each one. Ring 1, smell traps. I had A-Bing bury 30 clay pots around the outer walls, filled with rotting animal guts mixed with bone powder, sealed with silver wire. Werewolves hate the smell of decay. They hunt fresh meat and avoid anything that stinks like an undead buffet. This would confuse their noses into thinking our mansion was just another gross monster den, not worth attacking. Ring 2, Bone Spike Minefield. A-Bing burned 30% of his energy, summoning skeleton moles to dig honeycomb-shaped bone spike traps under the stone floor. Based on werewolf weight calculations, any wolf that jumped into the yard would land directly on a bone punji stick. Welcome, Matt from Hell. Ring 3, Ghost Patrol. I made life-sized leather dummies from old horse equipment, stuffed them with bells and phosphorus powder, and had skeleton moles drag them around on preset paths. To any werewolf watching from the tree line, it would look like armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Scarecrow technology meets medieval psychological warfare. That was just layer 1. Layer 2 was the courtyard kill zone. Ring 4, Silver Rain Machine. I melted down the attic's silver candlesticks into shotgun pellets and loaded them into modified drainage pipes. Bess would operate a manual lever to unleash a spray of silver shrapnel. My 60-year-old butler was now manning an anti-werewolf turret. Career pivot of the century. Ring 5, Blood Bait. Cow blood mixed with nightshade juice, painted on the greenhouse glass. Werewolves would smell the blood, attack the greenhouse like lunatics, and waste their energy smashing an empty building. Ring 6, Bone Swamp. The skeletons rebuilt the front steps into a collapsing bone gravel pit. Each step sinks 15 centimeters, and the gravel was mixed with holy salt, regular salt that Aurora had blasted with purification light. Werewolves hate holy salt the way cats hate water. Ring 7, Ghoul's Curse. I had one rare curse-capable ghoul locked in the basement, getting milked for blood daily. His blood could be made into curse bombs that caused hallucinations and self-confusion upon contact. Get hit by this, and you'd start fighting your own shadow while A-Bing stabbed you from behind. And if Ring 7 failed, I had Rings 8 and 9 waiting. 32 traps total. My house was now more dangerous than the territory it sat in. After the final trap was placed, I felt confident enough to leave. Bess and A-Bing did not feel confident. They stood in the middle of the living room, frozen stiff, terrified that taking a single step in any direction would trigger one of MY traps and blow them to pieces. Bess was genuinely considering that he might starve to death before I returned because he was too scared to walk to the kitchen. A-Bing, in what might be the most touching gesture of his undead career, reached into his bag and offered Bess one of his chewed bones. He'd never shared bones with anyone before. This was skeleton-level friendship. A-Bing had officially accepted Bess as family. Bess looked at the smooth, polished bone, so clean it looked like jade, and his soul left his body. Just let the world end already. Meanwhile, Aurora and I climbed into our carriage and headed for Haas Mountain. The driver was Skeleton Minion 1, one of A-Bing's recruits who'd spent the past month doing construction work. No hidden talents, no destiny as an undead emperor, but the little guy was a hard worker. I planned to eventually train him into a proper farmer. Every kingdom needs agriculture. How long are we staying in four-leaf territory? Aurora asked, practically vibrating with excitement. She'd been stuck in monster-infested wasteland for a month straight. The prospect of visiting an actual city was making her lose her mind. I held up 3 fingers. Day 1. Exchange monsters for cash, buy magic potions and better seeds. Day 2 morning. Visit the church and invite them to set up shop in Red Moon territory. Day 2 afternoon. Buy food. Day 3. Free day. We explore the town, do some shopping, see what 4-leaf does that we can copy. Aurora's eyes lit up like fireworks, but she clamped her expression down and lifted her chin stubbornly. If you're expecting me to say thank you, great lord, I will be even more loyal to you from now on. That's absolutely not happening. Sure. I placed 100 gold coins in her tiny palm. This is your monthly salary. Buy whatever you want. She hesitated. Then she took it. This was important. Accepting a salary meant she was an employee, not a slave. The distinction mattered to her more than the amount. And honestly, 100 gold for a witch was insultingly low. Most witches wouldn't get out of bed for less than 10 times that. But it was genuinely all I could afford while rebuilding an entire territory from scratch. Aurora didn't care about the number anyway. Everything she actually wanted, respect, freedom, safety, someone who never asked about her past or forced her to do things she hated. I'd already given her from day 1. I always saved the best food on the table for her. I never treated her like property. I helped her awaken powers she never thought she'd have. These days, she woke up every morning excited. What monsters would we hunt today? What would we eat for lunch? Simple questions, simple happiness. No more shame about being illegitimate. No more terror about being captured and sold. When she pocketed those coins, I exhaled with relief. If she'd refused the money, I'd have panicked. That would have meant I wasn't paying enough. As our carriage crossed Haas Mountain, we casually captured 32 more monsters along the way. This mountain was basically a gold mine with legs. Every ghoul, every skeleton, every crawling horror was just walking bounty money waiting to be collected. We had to stop catching them because the carriage was literally full. Monsters stuffed in every corner. The driver's skeleton was sitting on top of a ghoul. Aurora had her feet propped on a restrained skeleton. I was wedged between two paralyzed werewolves like the filling in a nightmare sandwich. Over the mountain and into four-leaf territory, we rolled toward the Adventurers Guild, the only ATM that accepts live monsters as deposits. I pushed open the heavy wooden door of the Adventurers Guild, and a bell clanged overhead like it was announcing the arrival of someone important. Which it was. Me. The smell hit first. Wet leather and sour beer had a baby, and that baby never showered. Bronze candlesticks were crying wax tears onto oak tables. A stuffed one-horned lizard head hung from the ceiling with a rusty arrow still jammed in its eye socket. Upstairs, iron boots stomped on creaky wood, raining sawdust into the fireplace, ashes like the world's saddest snow globe. The bulletin board was surrounded by adventurers who smelled like they'd been composting inside their own cloaks. A bandaged female ranger leaned against a barrel, casually wiping blood off a dagger while bruises peeked through cracks in her leather armor. Every eye in the room turned to us when we walked in. Not because of Aurora's silver hair. Not because I looked like a recently sun-dried nobleman. Because behind me was a mountain of captured monsters. 12 werewolves, 33 ghouls, 67 skeletons, and one massive corrupted giant beast. Just casually stacked behind me like I was delivering pizza. Monster pizza. Is that a corrupted giant beast? I haven't seen one that intact in years. Who is this guy? New adventurer? He's got to be strong. Think he'd let me join his party for a run into the undead mountains. The veteran behind the counter, a white-haired, red-nosed old man named Tom, spotted the pile and practically levitated off his stool. He abandoned his quill mid-scratch and shuffled over, rubbing his hands together like a fly that just found a wedding cake. Customer. Are all of these for trade? Yep. Give me a price. Oh, you must be new. You don't actually need to bring the whole monster. Just the left ear or core crystal is enough. But we do offer full dissection services for a small fee. He'd already guided us to the bar and poured 2 mugs of wheat beer before I could respond. I grabbed Aurora's mug away from her. She doesn't drink. She's underage. I am not. Aurora protested immediately. Then she pushed the beer away herself. I just don't like the taste of wheat beer. Tom chuckled and swapped it for orange juice. Aurora accepted it with a dignified nod. Orange juice is the drink of mature individuals. Kid, you weigh about as much as one of Abing's leg bones. But sure, very mature, very sophisticated. How much for the dissection? I asked. For 100+ monsters? About 1 gold coin. And after fees, what's the total? Tom scribbled some numbers on paper. Werewolves, we only buy fangs and claws. 50 gold per wolf, 12 wolves, that's 600 gold. Ghouls, 1 gold per magic core, 33 ghouls, 33 gold. Skeletons, same deal, 67 skeletons, 67 gold. The corrupted giant beast ranges from 2,000 to 10,000 depending on quality. Yours is mid-grade, so I'd say 4,000 gold. Grand total, for 1,700 gold. After our tax processing service, you walk away with 2,350. My cheat ability fired up instantly. Tom Ross, experienced appraiser. Because you're a newcomer, he deliberately lowballed you. That corrupted giant beast is worth at least 6,000 gold. This old fox was trying to skim almost a third off the top just because I looked green. In a medieval fantasy world, scams apparently transcend time and dimension. Aurora, they charge tax here. Let's just go to the Royal Alchemy Society next door instead. Aurora didn't understand any of the business stuff. She just nodded obediently and put down her empty juice glass. Good soldier. Tom grabbed my sleeve before I took 2 steps. Wait. Let's talk this through. The female ranger at the bar suddenly jumped in. Old Tom, are you bullying a newcomer? That corrupted giant beast is worth at least 5,000 gold. Those things are incredibly hard to capture. Tom rubbed his eyes dramatically. Oh dear, my old eyes must have made an error. You're right, 5,000 gold. The ranger winked at Tom. These two were obviously running a double act. She saves the newcomer from the lowball. Tom corrects his mistake to a still low price, and she probably gets a kickback later. Everybody in the guild pretended not to see it, which told me this scam ran on newbies like clockwork. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Since nobody here knows what they're looking at, I'll just take everything to the Golden Alchemy Society. I heard they don't charge tax. The ranger smiled and slid closer, leaning against the bar in a way that deployed her cleavage like a weapon of mass distraction. Little brother, the Golden Alchemy Society may not tax you, but their prices are way lower. You won't even get 2,000 gold there. Everyone knows only the Adventurers Guild gives fair prices. Aurora glanced at the ranger's geography and then down at her own flat terrain. Even in which transformation mode, she couldn't compete with those mountains. Then I'll go to the black market, I said casually, turning to leave. Tom lunged. Fine. Customer, name your price. Werewolves, ghouls, and skeletons. I'll accept your original numbers. But the corrupted giant beast? 7,000 gold. Not one coin less. 7,000 gold coins? Old Tom stared at me like I'd just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. This kid who didn't even know you only need to bring ears and magic cores somehow nailed the exact value of a corrupted giant beast? His brain was short-circuiting. Aurora tugged on my sleeve, worried I'd priced too high. I ruffled her hair and gave her the, trust me, look. Rule number 1 of haggling. Always start high so the other guy feels like he's winning when you come down. This is the art of negotiation, and my little witch still had much to learn. When Tom saw I was genuinely about to walk out, he caved. He called over a professional elf appraiser who used some kind of magic eye ability to verify everything, then settled up using the official Continental Monster Price Guide. All monsters combined, 7,000 gold coins. But you must sign a priority partnership agreement. All future monsters come to us first, fine by me. Long-term relationships with the guild meant early access to bounty intel and mission postings. Plus, I needed to eventually recruit adventurers for Red Moon territory. Making friends here was basically a job fair in disguise. But when Tom started counting out coins, he only handed over 3,500. What's this? I'm missing half. Anyone without a local adventurer registration must pay 50% trade tax. We handle the tax filing for you, so it's already been deducted. I pulled out the Undead Mountains Monster Cleanup Cooperation Agreement, the one I'd squeezed out of Royce. Tom's eyes nearly fell out of his skull. This kid was from Red Moon territory, the place where monsters outnumber blades of grass. No wonder he showed up with a mountain of creatures. The greediest adventurers in the world wouldn't go near that hellhole, and this teenager just waltzed in with a full catalog. All right, undead monsters are tax-exempt per the agreement. But the werewolves are not from the Undead Mountains. Cool. Then I'll sell the werewolves on the black market. I hear wolf fangs go for 200 gold each over there. Tom's face twitched. He'd finally realized I wasn't some clueless newcomer stumbling through my first trade. I knew everything. Prices, loopholes, alternative markets. The whole. I don't even know the rules. Act was a trap, and he'd walked right into it. Fine. I'll take everything. All of it. But please, next time, come to US first. He counted out 7,000 gold coins with the expression of a man watching his own blood being drawn. Probably the biggest single transaction this guild had done all year. I noticed the adventurers around the room staring at my gold with eyes that looked like hungry wolves watching a lamb. Not good. Walking out of here with a giant bag of money was basically painting a target on my back. Time for some PR. I slapped 10 gold coins on the bar counter and announced, "Everyone, I'm Luke, an adventurer from Red Moon territory. Nice to meet you all. Tonight, all food and drinks are on me. Order the expensive stuff." 10 gold was enough to feed this entire bar the finest menu items for days. The cheap beer crowd erupted like I'd just announced free Christmas. Luke, Luke, Luke. They were chanting my name. Well, my fake name. Aurora shot me a confused look. Why did I change my name? Sweetheart, when you're carrying 7,000 gold coins through a medieval city crawling with murderers, you don't hand out your real address. Being Luke meant anyone looking for revenge would be searching for a ghost. I mingled with the adventurers, drank a few rounds. Wheat beer tastes like watered-down regret, By the way, absolutely nothing compared to proper liquor, and slipped out of the guild with Aurora. That's when I noticed the shadows following us. Of course, show up with a mountain of monsters, leave with a mountain of gold, and suddenly everyone's your best friend or your future murderer. No in between. Behind us, I could hear them whispering. Badly, might I add. Boss, anyone who can catch that many monsters has to be at least a 3-star, maybe 4-star knight. Are we sure about this? Relax. I tested him while drinking. He's a 1-star knight at best. There's no way he caught all those monsters alone. He's just the delivery boy. There's probably a whole team behind him. Then shouldn't we leave him alone? Idiot. That's exactly why we should hit him. Kill him and the girl, grab the gold, and who's gonna know? His team is probably back in Red Moon territory, miles away. Oh yeah, good point, boss. Criminal masterminds, clearly. 6 men from the One-Eye Adventure team blocked the alley in front of us. Their leader was a shirtless muscle mountain wearing an eye patch, which apparently qualified as both a fashion statement and a team name. Very creative branding. One-Eye, my friend. Didn't drink enough back there? Next time you visit Red Moon territory, I'll buy you another round. One-Eye grinned. Sorry, Luke buddy. I enjoyed your drinks, but I enjoy your money more. Don't worry though, I'm not heartless. I'll make it quick. And the girl? I'll just snap her neck. No suffering. These idiots had no idea the cute little girl behind me was a walking weapon of mass destruction. Aurora's magic signature was completely hidden. Unless you were a seriously powerful mage, she just looked like an ordinary silver-haired kid. And in her non-combat lowly form, nobody would guess she was the same goddess who vaporized an entire undead army last week. I sighed dramatically. Look, if it was just you, One-Eye, I'd honestly consider handing the money over. But you brought 6 guys. And I'm worried you won't be able to keep 7,000 gold coins all to yourself. Sharing is hard, you know. One-Eye's grin froze. His paranoia kicked in instantly. If there was one thing a thief understood, it was being robbed by other thieves. Who else is here? Come out. Stop hiding in the shadows like cowards. The alley filled up fast. One-Eye's crew was just the appetizer. Behind them came the Spade Adventure team, the Red Boot Adventure team, a bunch of solo freelancers, and, oh look, Miss Cleavage the helpful ranger from the bar, licking her dagger like a cat licking cream. 31 people total. Out of maybe 80 in the entire guild hall, half of them followed me into this alley to rob me. Every single one of them had been laughing, drinking, and chanting, Luke, Luke, Luke. 5 minutes ago, I bought them the most expensive food on the menu. And this is how they repay me. You know what though? I wasn't mad. I was thrilled. Because the one thing Red Moon territory needed more than anything else was people. And 31 able-bodied fighters just volunteered themselves. They just didn't know it yet. Aurora was genuinely shocked. She'd watched me chatting and drinking with these guys like old friends and thought we'd actually bonded. Sweet, naive, socially anxious Aurora. Welcome to the real world, where the guy toasting your health at 6 p.m. is planning your murder at 6:15. Luke, sweetie, want Big Sister to protect you? I'll only charge a small protection fee. The ranger licked her blade with a smile that was half flirty, half psychotic. Luke, buddy, looks like you're in trouble. The Spade team can help. Their captain grinned with a face that said, help? Meant, help ourselves to your wallet. He was missing his left hand from a werewolf bite years ago and had replaced it with an iron hook. Very pirate chic. One-Eye, you think you're eating this alone? Red Boots ain't having that. Their captain showed off his shiny red boots like that was supposed to intimidate someone. I did a quick assessment. 6 3-star knights, 11 2-star knights, the rest at trainee level. In this world, becoming a knight was the poor man's path to power. No expensive magical resources needed. Just train your body until it breaks, then train harder. Most adventurers were knights. Mages required mountains of gold that regular families couldn't dream of affording. 3-star was the ceiling for commoners. Impressive in a bar fight. Absolutely nothing against a witch. You'd need at least a 6-star knight to even challenge a beginner witch, and 6-star knights were military commanders. Simon, who considered himself the strongest man in 4-leaf territory, was only 5-star. These 31 people were shrimp trying to fight a whale. Aurora, did you eat enough earlier? She nodded and clenched her tiny fists. Then, magical girl transformation, go. 5 minutes later, the alley was filled with the beautiful sound of grown men weeping. Every single adventurer was on their knees, clutching their eyes, crying and begging for forgiveness from the glowing goddess who'd just flashbanged them into temporary blindness. Please, Lady Witch, forgive us. If we'd known she was a witch, we would never have touched you. We're sorry. We'll never do it again. Lord Luke, please have mercy. One Eye was screaming the loudest because he'd started the day with one working eye and now had zero. Both eyes completely blinded by Aurora's light attack. Don't worry, the blindness was temporary. I needed workers, not decorations. Do you want to live? They nodded like baby chickens pecking at rice. Fastest, most enthusiastic nodding I've ever seen. Then come work for me in Red Moon Territory. Every face went white as paper. Red Moon Territory? Dogs wouldn't go to Red Moon Territory. That place had werewolves before the monster surge. Now it was basically Satan's backyard. No? Then die. Actions have consequences. I made a throat-slitting gesture. Aurora helpfully charged up a light orb in her palm, like she was loading a spell with their names on it. We'll go. We'll go. We volunteer. They were sobbing. Every single one. 31 adult warriors crying in a dirty alley because a teenager and his magical girl sidekick gave them an ultimatum between dying now or dying later. They chose later. Smart choice, honestly. Now sign these. I pulled out a stack of slave contracts. The crying stopped. Every adventurer stared at the pre-prepared documents with dawning horror. Wait, he had these ready? Before the fight? Before the ambush? Before any of this happened? The best hunters always disguise themselves as prey. I'd planned this from the moment I walked into that guild. The big entrance with the monster mountain, the flashy 7,000 gold transaction, the generous, drinks on me, act. All of it was bait. I wanted them to follow me. I wanted them to try to rob me. Because the only way to recruit 31 hardened adventurers into moving to the worst territory on the continent was to leave them no other choice. The contracts were the proof. I'd had them in my pocket the entire time. They signed. What else could they do? Every signature was accompanied by quiet weeping and the death of a dream. First order of business, hand over all your cash. Second, go home, pack your bags, grab your gear and food. Third, if you have families, bring them along. If you're worried about safety, say goodbye and come alone. You have 3 days. Meet at the base of Haas Mountain. More crying. Coins clattered into Aurora's hands from 31 miserable purses. One Eye smacked his underling so hard a tooth flew out. This is your fault. I told you. Actually, no, you told me not to do this, and I didn't listen. But still. Never be greedy again. Boss, why are you hitting me? The underling covered his face, now missing a front tooth on top of everything else. Total collected, 74 gold coins, 290 silver coins, 534 copper coins, Aurora reported. I kept only the gold and handed back the silver and copper. Go buy yourselves some decent equipment. And I'm not saying this to be nice. I'm saying this because Red Moon Territory will kill you if you show up unprepared. Their expressions looked like someone had force-fed them a dog poop sandwich and then charged them for the plate. We know it's dangerous, man. We know. I turned to climb into my carriage and discovered my skeleton driver was dead. Soul fire extinguished. Some genius in the ambush team had stabbed him during the chaos. Whoever killed my driver, get up here and take his seat. Now, One Eye burst into fresh tears, slapped his underling again, and climbed onto the driver's bench himself, sobbing the entire way up. Lord Luke, Lady Witch, where are we going? The magic potion market sat on Ale Street in Four Leaf Territory's east side, a winding cobblestone road lined with shops and stalls. That smelled like someone threw herbs, chemicals, and candy into a blender and hit chaos. One Eye parked the carriage at the entrance since the streets inside were too narrow. I left him to guard the vehicle, partly because he was useful, partly because watching him sit there crying was getting uncomfortable, and walked in with Aurora. The stalls were packed with bottles and jars. Glowing liquids, mysterious smoke, colorful potions. It looked like a wizard's pharmacy had exploded. Try my fire heart potion. Doubles your fire magic power. A bearded dwarf waved a bottle of red liquid that bubbled like lava. Drinking this will only give you heartburn and 3 days of constipation. Ignore him. My frost breath potion makes ice magic more precise. A blue-robed elf lady held up a crystal-clear blue bottle. Expired. Only works on elves. Humans who drink it will experience explosive diarrhea. Power liquid. Instant strength boost. Every night needs this. A bald, muscular vendor shook a pink bottle. Grants massive strength for exactly 3 seconds. Then you're exhausted for an entire day. Constipation potion, diarrhea potion, or a 3-second steroid. What a selection. I walked past every single stall without stopping. My cheat ability was basically a walking FDA. Nothing got past quality control. Aurora, on the other hand, was losing her mind. Her eyes were sparkling at every colorful bottle like a kid in a toy store. If I hadn't physically grabbed her sleeve, she would have blown her entire salary on snake oil. But that one glows. It glows because it's radioactive garbage, Aurora. Keep walking. Past the central fountain, we finally reached the agricultural potion shop. The owner was a druid, a tall, green-skinned tree person sitting outside smoking a pipe, occasionally scratching between their toes with deep satisfaction while sunbathing. For Leaf Territory's open trade policy meant all races could do business here. Unfortunately, it also meant elves, dwarves, and druids had learned humanity's greatest skills, lying and cheating. My cheat ability scanned the druid immediately. A temperamental druid shopkeeper. Likes being called beautiful. Warning, she is female. If you mistake her gender, she will become furious and refuse to do business. Her potions, however, are completely genuine. AHAHA? This 7-foot, rough-skinned, pipe-smoking, toe-scratching tree creature was a woman? Thank God for my cheat ability. I would have said, sir, and gotten banned from the only real potion shop in this market. Beautiful lady, I'm looking for soil improvement potions. Could you recommend something? Aurora yanked my sleeve. She was absolutely certain I'd gotten the gender wrong and was about to get us thrown out. The druid put down her pipe and beamed. The biggest, most radiant smile I'd seen from any tree person ever. She was delighted. Apparently nobody had called her beautiful in ages, and she'd been carefully maintaining her bark skin every single day waiting for this moment. Of course, I have the best potions. If you brought a soil sample, I can make precise recommendations. Aurora heard the druid's surprisingly delicate voice and slowly raised a thumbs up behind my back. She was thoroughly impressed that I'd somehow identified the gender correctly. Inside the shop, I handed over a bottle of Red Moon Territory soil. The druid opened it, pinched some dirt, and popped it in her mouth like a sommelier tasting wine. Her entire face, every bark wrinkle, every tree ring, scrunched up in absolute disgust. She spat the dirt out immediately. This is the worst soil I have ever tasted. You cannot grow anything in this. I know. That's why I need your help. If I were you, I'd find different land entirely. The contamination level is off the charts. Beautiful lady, surely someone as gorgeous and wise as you has a solution? The flattery hit her like a truck full of compliments. She was so flustered, she practically floated upstairs to her private collection and brought out her most premium products. This is fertile essence. It can improve even the worst dirt. 1 bottle covers 10 square meters. But you'll also need holy water to irrigate. I don't sell that. You'd need a church or a purification mage. And your seeds won't work either. You need abundant seeds, which can grow even in deserts, but they're expensive. By the time I left the druid's shop, the sun was setting. Total purchase, mountains of fertile essence and abundant seeds. Real value, 1,256 gold coins. What I actually paid, 1,000 gold. The 256 coin discount was powered entirely by compliments. Flattery is the most cost-effective currency in any dimension. She even offered free delivery, until I mentioned the delivery address was Red Moon Territory. Suddenly, she remembered she had a blind date to attend. Very important. Couldn't possibly make the trip. Her assistants loaded everything onto my carriage, and that was that. Can't blame her. Nobody delivers to werewolf country. Not even Amazon would. Leaving the market, One Eye, who was actually being useful for once, suggested we stay at the Red Peach Inn. The owner was his girlfriend, so we got free rooms, free dinner, and generous portions of fish, meat, and fruit wine. Free stuff from a guy whose slave contract I'm holding? From a girlfriend who probably wants to steal that contract back? Nothing suspicious at all. Get some rest. We're going to the church tomorrow, I told Aurora. Aurora walked into her assigned room and found me lying on her bed. Why aren't you in your room? I switched us. That room has better lighting. It's better for you. Her eyes softened. She started getting emotional. Nobody has ever been so thoughtful about. Also, This is One-Eye's girlfriend's in. She's definitely going to sneak into my room tonight to steal One-Eye's slave contract. So you sleep there, I sleep here. Much safer. Her emotional moment crashed and burned like a paper airplane in a hurricane. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. That delicious fruit wine we were served, laced with high-grade sleeping potion. I drank it, immediately went to the bathroom, and shoved my fingers down my throat. Everything came back up. Crisis averted. Aurora doesn't drink alcohol, so she dodged the trap automatically. Being underage has its perks. One-Eye's master plan was simple. Drug me, have his girlfriend sneak in, steal the slave contract, and avoid going to Red Moon territory. He wasn't stupid enough to target Aurora. Hurting a witch is a capital crime in the Empire, since witches are basically national treasures. But he'd forgotten one tiny detail. I'd switched rooms. So when the assassin crept into what she thought was my room in the middle of the night, she didn't find a drugged one-star knight. She found a very awake, very annoyed light witch. By morning, I had one more slave contract in my collection and ownership of the Red Peach Inn. So now I had a place to stay whenever I visited Four-Leaf territory. Free of charge. Forever. Gotta love One-Eye. The man came with a buy-one-get-one deal and a dowry. What a romantic. Morning sunlight hit the pointy roof of the Sun Church like a spotlight on a stage. Believers were already lined up to pray, and the priests and nuns were running around busier than a fast food restaurant at lunchtime. I wanted a private chat with the head priest, but apparently even barons have to wait in line for the confession booth. I whipped out my noble ID and cut the entire queue. Sometimes being a baron is basically having a VIP pass to life. Father Timothy was a wrinkly old man with the warmest smile you'd see on a grandpa who just baked cookies. Baron, how can I help you? Father, I'm sincerely inviting you to come preach in Red Moon territory. I'll give you free land and build you a church. Every proper territory needs a church, right? The sun god religion was huge in this empire. Having church people would make my territory look legitimate and attract actual human beings. Timothy's smile didn't waver 1 millimeter, but his eyes said, absolutely not. Baron, that's not something a simple priest like me can decide. The bishop is in the capital right now. When he returns, I'll pass along your generous offer. Translation, I'll tell the bishop, and the bishop will also say no, but at least you'll be gone by then. Strike one. No priest for Red Moon territory. I grabbed some holy water on my way out. Not because I actually needed it. Aurora's purification light does the same thing. But because I'd walked all the way here and leaving empty-handed felt like losing. I was climbing into the carriage, ready to chalk this up as a wasted morning, when a nun stepped in front of my horse. Baron, may I come with you to Red Moon territory? I pulled back the curtain. She was standing against the sunlight, glowing like she had her own personal Instagram filter. Her hands were clasped so tight her knuckles were white, green eyes like emerald pools with something broken swimming underneath. Morning wind lifted her white veil, revealing a pale neck and a silver, holy symbol swinging against her collarbone. Her dark blue nun outfit was cinched at the waist in a way that made you question several things about religious dress codes. When our eyes met, her long lashes trembled like butterfly wings, and those green eyes held a fire that had absolutely nothing to do with prayer. My cheat ability nearly exploded. Lucy, a nun with extremely high combat power. She actually suffers from severe bloodlust syndrome. She craves killing and blood. However, her faith in the sun god prevents her from harming innocent believers. Years of suppressing her true nature have made her deeply depressed. If she doesn't leave civilization soon, she will likely become a serial killer. So she's basically a ticking murder bomb wrapped in a nun costume. Standing here asking me for a job. In the most polite, angelic voice imaginable. Perfect. She's exactly what I need. I was planning to build a monster hunting squad anyway. Red Moon territory needed someone who could fight and actually enjoyed violence. Most people I'd recruit would need motivation. This woman needed a target. Aurora poked her head out and stared at the nun. So pretty, she whispered. Yeah, she was gorgeous. But that's not why I was bringing her. Red Moon territory doesn't need models. It needs killers. And she was apparently both. You can come, but you follow my orders. I will follow your instructions, Baron. Then she paused. Her eyes dropped slightly. But I must tell you something. I'm sick. Don't care. Get in. Red Moon territory's hiring standards? If you have a pulse and can swing a weapon, you're overqualified. What kind of sick? Aurora asked, scooting closer to me on the seat. Lucy answered with zero hesitation, like she was reading a grocery list. Bloodlust syndrome. I enjoy killing and blood. Aurora's mouth fell open. She couldn't find words. She just quietly shuffled her, but even closer to me until she was practically sitting in my lap. My fearless guardian witch, conqueror of undead armies, was hiding behind me because a pretty nun said she liked violence. I gave her a look. You're a witch. You disintegrated an entire skeleton battalion last week. Why are you scared of one murder nun? I've heard Red Moon territory has many monsters, Lucy continued, her voice soft as morning dew. I know a tiny bit of swordsmanship. Perhaps I could help clean them up. Her eyelashes cast shadows on her cheeks. She looked like a painting of the Virgin Mary if the Virgin Mary had a knife collection. Are you a female knight? She shook her head. A mage? Another head shake. Just a nun, not a knight. Not a mage. Not a witch. But my cheat ability said her combat power was high. This made no sense. Were there other power systems in this world I didn't know about? Then why do you think you can fight monsters? My mother was human. My father was a battle elf. I'm a half-breed. Fighting comes naturally to me. Her eyes went distant. When she was a child, her power awakened for the first time. She accidentally killed her abusive stepfather. Her mother, terrified of her own daughter, shipped her off to the church to become a nun. Go be calm. Go be peaceful. Go be anything except what you actually are. Lucy had spent years sitting in a church, white-knuckling her urge to paint the walls red, getting more depressed by the day. She knew she was a monster pretending to be a saint. She couldn't stay forever, but she'd promised the priest who raised her that she'd never leave the church, unless she was going to spread the faith. My visit gave her the loophole she needed. Going to Red Moon territory to establish a church technically counted as missionary work. Technically, she wasn't breaking her promise. Technicalities, the foundation of every great escape plan. I see, I said, slightly disappointed it was just a bloodline thing and not some cool secret power system I could exploit. We're not leaving for Red Moon territory until the day after tomorrow. Can you control yourself until then? I will do my best to suppress my desires, she smiled. Sweetly, gently, with the faintest flicker of murder behind her eyes. Oh, by the way, this is Aurora. She's a witch. The murder flicker vanished instantly, like someone flipped a light switch. Lucy's animal instincts recognized a predator higher on the food chain. You don't feel bloodlust towards something that could vaporize you with a wave of its hand. Good. Fear means control. I can work with that. Back inside the cathedral, a middle-aged nun rushed up to Father Timothy. Father. Lucy just got on the Baron's carriage. The old priest closed his eyes. Let her go. She was never meant to be here. He clasped his hands together. May God help her find her redemption. Day 3. Shopping day with Aurora, and honestly I had my own agenda too. My acceleration candle was dead and gone, so I needed a new magic tool. After selling all those monsters, I'd spent 1,000 gold on potions and seeds, another 1,000 on food and supplies, leaving me about 5,200 gold. Should be enough for something decent. But first, Aurora needed clothes. The girl had been wearing the same black gothic dress since I bought her. One dress. For over a month. After she transforms into her tall witch form, that dress becomes dangerously short. We needed wardrobe solutions before we needed magic tools. As my #1 asset and first real ally, investing in Aurora was just good business. So from early morning, I became the most patient shopping companion in history. Aurora disappeared into fitting rooms while I waited outside with one eye, having the most unexpected conversations. How much does your adventure team make in a year? Sir, we basically make zero. Earn money, spend money. Earn more, spend more. That's the adventurer lifestyle. So you and the Peachin owner, you never thought about getting married? Don't you need to buy a house? Pay a dowry, huh? Dowry. House. Beatrice already has a house. Why would I build one? Besides, we can't get married. That last part came out as a whisper so quiet I almost missed it. Why can't you get married? The Empire doesn't allow same-sex marriage. One eye's cheeks turned bright red. I nearly choked on my own spit. What? Beatrice the innkeeper is a man. You people are way more progressive than I gave this medieval world credit for. Suddenly, I wasn't so sure about bringing Beatrice to Red Moon territory. Things were getting complicated. Maybe just let him stay here and manage the Peach Inn. Yeah, good plan. Best plan. Sir, are you all right? You look unwell. Fine. Totally fine. Then the fitting room curtain opened. Aurora stepped out in pearl-studded leather boots, a Rococo-style golden silk dress that bloomed like a tulip, with lace-trimmed sleeves showing off her porcelain-white forearms. A peacock blue ribbon cinched her waist. Silver tassels dangled from her hair as she tilted her head, and those starlight eyes swept across the room. The old tailor's glasses slid down his nose. The shop girl forgot to breathe while holding a velvet jewelry box. One eye's remaining, I glazed over. I was stunned too. Aurora normally dressed in nothing but black. She looked gloomy, sometimes even messy. Today she'd unleashed her full potential, and it was like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. Except the caterpillar had been actively trying to stay ugly this whole time. She was ridiculously cute. Everyone in the store had the same thought simultaneously. Aurora wasn't used to being stared at by so many people. She nervously tugged at her skirt hem and looked down at the floor. Is it? Okay, perfect. This one's great on you, I said, giving a thumbs up. Pack the other two she tried on as well, I told the shop girl. No, one is enough. Aurora waved her hands, blushing furiously. But I knew her personality by now. If she didn't like something, she wouldn't even try it on. The fact that she wore all three meant she wanted all three. Classic Sundara shopping behavior. Final haul, 3 formal dresses, 3 casual outfits, plus 1 set each for Bess and Abing. The total wasn't much, and I paid for everything myself. Aurora got embarrassed about not contributing and decided she needed to give me a gift. Leanne, what do you want most? I'm not trying to give you a present. I'm just casually asking. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Her face was tomato red. I want too many things. Save your money and buy yourself some snacks. Her cheeks puffed up like an angry chipmunk. Who are you looking down on? Just tell me what you want. I feel bad taking all these gifts without giving anything back. Time to end this conversation. Well, I need a new magic tool. Want to come look? Even the cheapest, most useless magic tool starts at 1,000 gold. Aurora's entire monthly salary was 100 gold. She couldn't afford a magic tool if she saved for a year. I figured she'd give up immediately. She deflated like a punctured balloon and trudged behind me to the Mage Guild with the enthusiasm of someone attending their own funeral. The 4-leaf branch was smaller than the capital's. No gorgeous blonde receptionist here, just a grumpy dwarf craftsman who looked at us like we'd interrupted his nap, which we probably had. This man had 20 years of, I hate my job, energy radiating off him. I want a magic tool that accelerates crop growth. He didn't even make small talk. Just reached into a cabinet and pulled out a flute. Harvest flute. Play it, plants grow fast. 10,000 gold. Then he pulled out a single leaf. Harvest blessing. Make a wish on the leaf, get 1 instant harvest. 1,000 gold. Single use. He stretched his neck forward and stared at me. Which one? I wanted the flute. Permanent, reusable, exactly what Red Moon territory needed. But 10,000 gold? I had roughly half that. Might as well ask me to buy the moon. Anything in between? 3 to 5,000 range. The dwarf waved his hand dismissively. Everyone's out conquering territory and stealing resources these days. Nobody farms anymore. You're lucky, I even have 2 farming tools. Buy something or let me sleep. Sir, there are other magic shops on this street, One Eye suggested. I took one last longing look at the harvest flute, my beautiful, unaffordable dream instrument, and followed One Eye out. 3 more hours of shopping. Visited every magic shop in the district. Not a single farming-related magic tool anywhere. I did buy more sun lamps, demon-repelling stones, and a lightweight protective vest, but the one thing I actually needed? Nothing. I went back to the Peach and feeling defeated, counted our supplies, and prepared for an early departure the next morning. I fell asleep thinking about that stupid flute. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the harvest flute was sitting on my pillow, right there, next to my face. The 10,000 gold coin magic tool I couldn't afford. I stared at it. Then I looked across the room at Aurora's bed. Empty. Her small coin purse, the one I'd given her with 100 gold coins of salary plus yesterday's leftover spending money, was lying open. Also empty. That little idiot spent everything she had, and it still wouldn't have been enough. Which meant she must have gone back to that grumpy dwarf and done something absolutely insane to cover the difference. My chest felt tight in a way that had nothing to do with my new protective vest. I rubbed my eyes 3 times, pinched myself twice, slapped my own face once. The harvest flute was still sitting on my pillow. Not a dream. Not a hallucination. Not a prank. I grabbed it and crouched in the corner of the room, aiming at some moss growing in a wall crack. One tiny toot on the flute, and the moss exploded across half the wall like green paint from a pressure washer. I stopped playing, and it stopped growing. This was the real harvest flute. The 10,000 gold coin magic tool I absolutely could not afford. Did One Eye rob the Mage Guild? No, he wouldn't dare. Robbing the Mage Guild is a death sentence. So someone bought it. But who has that kind of money? I definitely don't have a secret sugar mama. I got dressed and knocked on Aurora's door. She opened it looking like she'd just crawled out of a coma. Messy hair, puffy eyes, the full. I definitely didn't stay up all night doing something suspicious. Look, my cheat ability pinged, which Aurora purchased the harvest flute from the Mage Guild and now owes them 9,900 gold coins. She must work at the Mage Guild 3 days per month until the debt is fully repaid. I stood there for a solid 10 seconds, caught somewhere between laughing and crying. This idiot. This beautiful, stubborn, Sundara idiot. She had 100 gold coins to her name. The flute cost 10,000. She paid her 100, then apparently walked up to the grumpiest dwarf in the universe and said, "I'd like to finance the remaining 9,900 please," and he agreed because she's a witch and witches are basically walking credit scores. She just signed herself into years of part-time work. 3 days every month. At the Mage Guild. For a flute. For me. Thank you, Aurora. I held up the flute. But I think we should return it. It's not worth. Absolutely not. You can't return it. She caught herself. I mean, I didn't buy that. It has nothing to do with me. I've never seen that flute before in my life. Girl, my cheat ability literally just told me you owe 9,900 gold coins. But sure. Total mystery. Nobody knows who bought it. Could have been anyone. Maybe the flute fairy visited overnight. Besides, we need to leave now, she said, desperately changing the subject. If we don't get back, what if Bess and A-Bing are in trouble? I mentally swore I'd pay off that debt the next time we came to trade monsters. No way was I letting my guardian witch moonlight as a Mage Guild part-timer. That's like making a fighter jet deliver pizza. When she saw I wasn't going to return the flute, her face lit up like sunshine breaking through Red Moon Territory's eternal fog. Finally, we're going home. You got bored that fast? Yesterday, you wanted to stay longer. For Leaf Territory is fun, but I prefer Red Moon Territory. She said it so casually. Like she was talking about preferring chocolate over vanilla. Not choosing a werewolf-infested wasteland over a thriving city. She'd been a homeless slave 5 weeks ago, and now she was calling a ruined village in Monster Country home. My chest did that tight thing again. We ate breakfast and loaded up the carriage. When I'd arrived in 4-Leaf Territory, I had one beat-up carriage. Leaving, I had an entire convoy. I'd organized all 31 adventurers plus the stragglers into the official Red Moon Territory Night Order. Every lord has the right to maintain a private night order. Mine was assembled entirely from people who tried to rob me. Unconventional recruitment, but effective. The adventurers actually started cheering up when they realized they had official night positions with actual government backing. And when we crossed Haas Mountain and ran into a giant slime monster, Aurora obliterated it with one blast. The knights watched the building-sized slime evaporate, and suddenly Red Moon Territory didn't seem so scary. We have a witch. We might actually survive this. But when we arrived at Red Moon Territory, my stomach dropped. The villages we'd spent a month building and cleaning? Destroyed. Signs of battle everywhere. Smashed buildings. Scorched ground. Claw marks on every surface. Bess. A-Bing. Please be okay. Aurora's smile vanished. Lucy the murder nun sniffed the air and her cheeks turned pink. She could smell blood. She was trying very hard not to look excited about it. We pushed forward at double speed until armored knights blocked our path. Halt. Identify yourselves and leave immediately. Do not interfere with our operation to capture the Wolf King. The knight's armor bore a cross and flame symbol. The Radiant Cross Crusaders from Radiant Fire Territory. Red Moon Territory's actual next-door neighbor. Quick geography lesson. 4-Leaf Territory is separated from Red Moon by Haas Mountain. Not true neighbors. Radiant Fire Territory directly borders Red Moon. Their lord had looked at this place years ago, said, "Too many werewolves, too little value," built a giant wall, and pretended Red Moon didn't exist. That's literally why Red Moon became a separate territory and why I got shipped here. And now these guys were here? After years of ignoring this place, something stank, and it wasn't Abing's bone collection. My cheat ability scanned the commander, Vichy Frank, Vice Commander of the Radiant Cross Crusaders. 4-star Knight, Sir Lien, those are Radiant Cross soldiers, One Eye whispered. They're the most brutal Knight Order in the South. Their commander is supposedly a 6-star Knight with a Knight's proof. He's the real deal, added Chris the Ranger. We should not pick a fight. I was half listening, half staring at the hooded figure standing next to Vichy. Dark energy. Ominous aura. My cheat ability lit up. Lysander. Wanted necromancer. Bounty. 10,000 gold. A wanted criminal. Working with the Crusaders. In MY territory. Things were getting spicy. The necromancer explained everything. Red Moon territory had always been werewolf central, but with the Undead Mountain magical surge flooding this place with undead monsters, a necromancer here was basically playing on easy mode. Unlimited undead troops everywhere. Bringing a necromancer to hunt the Wolf King was actually brilliant strategy. Evil, illegal, but brilliant. And they definitely weren't doing this to help me. I'd never met these people in my life. Whatever their reason was, one thing was clear. The Wolf King was MY property, on MY land, in MY territory. You don't walk into someone's house and take their furniture without asking. Commander Vichy, I'm Lee N. Edward, Lord of Red Moon territory. If you're hunting wolves on my land, shouldn't you at least tell me first? Vichy turned his horse and looked down at me from a height that was clearly designed to be intimidating. You're the Baron? Perfect timing. He pulled a letter from his coat. This is from our Lord. I opened it. Dear Baron Edward, I am James Bed, Lord of Radiant Fire territory. My beloved daughter Alausha has fallen gravely ill with a rare disease. The witch doctor says only the Wolf King's heart can save her. I've sent my knights to help you eliminate the wolf packs and retrieve the Wolf King. I hope your territory is doing well. How thoughtful. He destroyed my villages, brought a wanted necromancer onto my land, didn't ask permission, and wrapped it all in a polite letter. Like a neighbor who demolishes your fence, steals your dog, and leaves a thank you card on the rubble. Help me eliminate wolves, sure. And I'm sure the Wolf King's heart is the only reason you're here. Nothing else valuable about the most powerful creature in the territory. Nope, just medicine. This appears to be an ordinary letter asking for help, but every single word is a lie. Every single word. This guy's daughter isn't sick. The Wolf King's heart isn't medicine. This whole operation is a scam wrapped in polite stationery. I kept my face neutral and sent Aurora ahead to check on Bess and Abing. Baron, our Lord is simply a loving father desperate to save his daughter. You're very lucky we're here to help, Vichy said, like he was doing me a favor by invading my territory without permission. One Eye, bless his gullible, one-eyed heart, immediately bought it. Sir, if they're allies, this is amazing. The Radiant Cross Crusaders could wipe out every wolf in the area. We'd be safe. My newly formed Knight Order went absolutely starry-eyed. Every single former adventurer turned reluctant knight started gushing like teenage fans at a concert, fighting alongside the Radiant Cross. What an honor. I always dreamed of joining them. Too bad about my criminal record. I'm so pumped right now. Meanwhile, the actual Radiant Cross Knights were looking at my guys like they were examining something stuck to the bottom of their boots. Cold. Dismissive. One of them literally curled his lip in disgust. They were radiating, sewer rat, energy in our direction. But my people were too starstruck to notice. Fan goggles are powerful. Then a silver-armored knight swung his lance across the road and blocked our path. Now that you've been informed, leave. You'll only interfere with our Wolf King operation. Remove yourselves immediately. Yeah. Civilians, get out. One Eye puffed up his chest and flexed his one remaining bicep. We're not civilians. We're the Red Moon Territory Knight Order. Baron Edward's personal knights. We can help. Shut your mouth. Leave now, or we'll treat you like monsters. A bunch of sewer rats have no business standing near us. Your presence ruins our mood. The fan goggles shattered. Every adventurer in my Knight Order suddenly realized these heroes they idolized thought they were garbage. The humiliation hit them like a slap across the face. Before anyone could respond, Aurora returned, supporting a battered, bruised, swollen-faced Bess. My old butler saw me and burst into tears like a dam breaking. Baron, sir, these people are animals. They took Abing. They beat me. Did you tell them you're my butler? I told them immediately. They didn't care. They didn't even listen. I felt something cold settle behind my eyes. I looked at Vici. Vici shrugged like someone had spilled milk. Apologies, Baron. My men probably didn't hear clearly. They must have mistaken your butler for a local vagrant. Perhaps they were a bit rough during the eviction. I'll have a word with them later. Now, the red moon is about to rise, and our wolf king trap is almost ready. Please take your people and leave before anyone gets accidentally hurt. A Bing is my servant. Release him first. My voice came out flat. Cold. The kind of cold that makes people stop talking. Aurora noticed. She'd never seen me angry before. In her mind, I was the guy who always had a plan, always smiled, always had everything under control. Seeing my eyes go dark was apparently unsettling enough to make her grip tighten on her light orb. Who's A Bing? Vici asked, genuinely confused. The bone warrior your men captured. The hooded necromancer Lysander turned his head slowly toward me. Those dead eyes under the hood locked onto mine. That was your servant? Interesting. I assumed it was a wild monster. Tell you what, I'll give you 100 gold coins for it. That's generous for a bone warrior. He wanted to buy A Bing, my future undead emperor, for 100 coins. The necromancer's instincts had apparently told him A Bing was special, but his wallet was offering bargain bin prices. No, Lysander's smile evaporated. His skeletal fingers wrapped around his casting staff. You shouldn't offend a necromancer in a land full of undead monsters. Vici grabbed Lysander's arm. Don't complicate things. Lysander snorted and looked away. But he had zero intention of giving A Bing back. Vici put on his diplomatic face. I'm sorry, Baron. We already disposed of that bone warrior, thinking it was a monster. We'll compensate you. I whistled. One sharp note. A burlap sack on one of their knight's horses started thrashing. From inside came A Bing's unmistakable woo-woo sound. The same sad noise he made when his bone collection got scattered. He was alive. And right there, I walked over, pulled out my dagger, and sliced the bag open. A Bing's skull poked out, eye sockets flickering with panicked soul fire. Looks like you don't need to compensate me after all. I reached out to pull A Bing free. Two skeleton monsters burst from the ground and grabbed my wrists and ankles, summoned by Lysander. Big mistake. Aurora's palm was already glowing. A flash of purification light, and both skeletons turned to dust before they could blink. Light Witch. Vici and Lysander froze simultaneously. Every radiant cross knight in the area went statue still, mouths hanging open. The white-haired girl. The tiny teenager standing next to the broke, sun-dried baron from the disgraced family. She was a witch. A light witch. The rarest type. The type that could destroy everything undead within a mile radius with one spell. How? This exiled criminal noble had a light witch? My night order, the sewer rats, the garbage, the people who ruined the mood, finally got their moment. Every single adventurer straightened up, puffed out their chest, and unleashed weeks of pent-up frustration in the most satisfying possible way. Meet Aurora, guardian witch of Red Moon territory. Now release our Baron's servant. Immediately, Vici was the fastest thinker in the group. He jumped off his horse so fast he almost face-planted, dropped into the most textbook noble bow I'd ever seen, and his voice transformed from cold arrogance to warm honey in 0.3 seconds. My deepest apologies, Baron. We'll return your servant right away. Please, don't let this unfortunate misunderstanding damage the friendship between Red Moon territory and Radiant Fire territory. We are here to help. We will eradicate the wolf threat. Long live our partnership. Amazing how fast Get Lost, Sewer Rats turns into Long live our friendship when a witch enters the picture. Gotta hand it to Vici. The man could switch from, you're dirt, to, please don't kill us, faster than Aurora could switch from lowly to goddess. True professional weather vane. Every single Radiant Cross knight dismounted and bowed to Aurora like she was royalty at a parade. 5 minutes ago they were calling my people sewer rats. Now they were practically kissing the ground she walked on. Aurora fidgeted. She wasn't used to entire armies kneeling before her. But somewhere deep inside, I noticed a tiny flicker in her eyes. The realization that if she ever went back to the North Continent, back to the Lionheart family, she'd command this same respect. The illegitimate daughter nobody wanted was now a walking nuclear deterrent. They released A Bing immediately. He scurried behind me, trembling. He was scared of Lysander, and honestly, fair. Having a necromancer eyeball you like a used car he wants to buy is deeply unsettling when you're made of bones. I didn't waste any more time on pleasantries. I don't know your Lord James Bet. I don't need your help clearing wolves. Everything in Red Moon territory, every blade of grass, every monster, every wolf, is my private property. You're trespassing. Leave now, or I invoke Imperial Law Article 14, illegal territorial invasion. I'll arrest every single one of you and make your lord pay ransom. Every Radiant Cross Knight looked like I'd slap them with a fish. They'd come here expecting to steamroll a defenseless wasteland, grab the Wolf King, and go home like heroes. Nobody prepared them for broke Baron with a nuclear, which says no. One Eye tried to play peacemaker. Sir, maybe we shouldn't. He caught my eyes and his entire body retracted into itself like a snail getting poked. He hid behind his underling. Smart. Baron, please reconsider. Miss Bet truly needs the Wolf King's heart, Vici pleaded. Miss Bet's medical needs are not my problem. I'm the lord here. Everything on this land belongs to me. You have no authority. Leave, zero mercy, zero negotiation. The knights mounted up, furious but powerless. Nobody wanted to test a witch. They started riding away. Then I called out. One more thing. Vici pulled his horse around, hope flickering in his eyes. Changed your mind, Baron? No. You destroyed my newly built village. Pay for it. His hope died a quick death. How much? 1,000 gold. The actual rebuilding cost was barely 100 gold. But hey, emotional damages. Pain and suffering. Butler beating surcharge. Vici's knights pooled their wallets and scraped together 1,000 gold coins like college students splitting an unexpected bar tab. They turned to leave again. I stopped them again. Baron, what now? Vici's patience was hanging by a thread made of cobwebs. I pointed at the hooded necromancer. Lysander, wanted by the Empire for 3 years. Bounty, 10,000 gold. He's in my territory, which makes him my responsibility. He stays. The adventurers behind me were shocked. How did I know it was Lysander? The guy was wrapped up tighter than a mummy. Nobody could see his face. Baron, you're mistaken. This is not Lysander. He's our special consultant. If he's not Lysander, take off the hood. My people are all former adventurers. They'll recognize him. One Eye, who was terrified of the Radiant Cross 5 minutes ago, suddenly found his voice. Yeah, take off the hood. Let us see. He just used necromancy to attack our lord. He's definitely Lysander. My knight order went from 0 courage to maximum hype in record time. It's amazing what having a witch behind you does for self-confidence. These guys were hiding behind each other an hour ago. Now they were heckling an army. Vici blocked Lysander's hand from raising his staff. Baron, he's truly not Lysander. But he is a necromancer. I'll admit that. Perhaps we can negotiate. Red Moon territory has rules. Anyone on the bounty list with a reward over 100 gold doesn't leave. We uphold justice here. And also he tried to buy my future undead emperor for pocket change. That's the real crime. Lysander had heard enough. You want to keep me? Let's see if you have the ability. The red moon emerged overhead. Shadows danced. Lysander's bony fingers caressed the baby skull embedded in his staff. The skull's empty eyes erupted with black, tar-like fog. 17 corpses in rotting burial shrouds burst from the ground, their rib cages crawling with translucent maggots that screamed like crying babies whenever the phosphorus fire in their eye sockets flared. He slashed his staff through the air in an inverted cross. The skeletons twisted and merged into a 10-foot wall of bones, tibias jammed into vertebrae, finger bones woven into chain-link rivets, every gap sealed with black bone marrow oozing plague mist. Show off. Aurora pushed off a charred tree branch and floated into the air, the red moonlight painting blood-colored edges on her silver hair. The light orb in her palm wasn't just energy. It was a compressed holy bomb with runes swirling across its surface like a trapped galaxy. She released it. 12 golden cracks splintered across the sphere before it detonated. Noonday sun. That's what it felt like. Blinding holy white light swallowed everything. The bone wall shattered like glass hitting concrete. The black marrow evaporated into purple mist. The screaming maggots carbonized into gray snowflakes drifting through the air. Lysander's cracked lips leaked green fluid. The baby skull on his staff suddenly opened its eyes. He spat 6 syllables of ancient dark magic mixed with actual chunks of his own flesh, and the ground started moving, heaving and rippling like a giant beast's stomach. Hundreds of undead monsters erupted from underground. These had been his trap for the Wolf King, prepositioned ambush forces buried across the entire area. Now he was throwing them all at Aurora instead. Vici panicked and ordered retreat. His knights raised red shields that burst into protective flames as they galloped away from the blast zone. My adventurer knights drew weapons. One eye was shaking but held his ground. And then, from the back of our formation, came a voice that made every hair on my neck stand up. "Sir." Lucy the murder nun stepped forward. She slowly drew her long sword, eyes locked on the massive skeletal spider crawling out of the ground, a grotesque horror of fused bones and pulsing dark energy, each leg ending in a blade-sharp point. She looked at it the way a starving person looks at a 5-course meal. The most beautiful smile I'd ever seen spread across her face. Pure, radiant joy. The kind of happiness other people feel at weddings or the birth of their first child. "Sir, may I kill these?"